Chapter 2488. Without her dreams, she planned to leave this place. However, all of this was not over. Tang Wen was still unwilling. The bean sprout that she had bullied back then actually lived like a little princess and even stole the man she liked. So she played dirty again and instigated someone to kidnap Yun-Yi. After the original host left the industry, she liked to carry a backpack and wander around. She did not plan to fall in love again. Instead, she wanted to live a peaceful life. That day, Yun-Yi happened to be filming outside. It was at a place with beautiful mountains and clear waters. At night, they could only set up a tent. At night, someone sneaked in and kidnapped Yun-Yi. The original host's tent was not far from them. As if she heard the cry for help, she subconsciously opened the tent and went out. Seeing the figure leaving in a hurry in the distance, she knew that she couldn't go there alone, so she called the police and followed him secretly. Because she called the police in time, Yun-Yi was saved. However, she was hated by Tang Wen. In the end, she was kidnapped by Tang Wen's people, killed, and thrown into the sea. In the end, Tang Wen's ending was not good. She repeatedly targeted Yun-Yi and was finally dealt with by the Yun family. As for the original host who had already been thrown into the sea, no one cared. After the original host died, there was only one person who was sad for her, and that was her biological brother. Her biological brother had been studying all this time and did not know the truth at all. When he found out the truth, Tang Wen had already been dealt with and Yun-Yi was about to get married. At this time, Yun-Yi was already known as the movie queen. Tang Lin was furious. Especially after he found out everything, he placed all his anger on the Yun family. He knew why his sister had never made a move on the Yun family and even swallowed her anger. It was because she was thinking about those 16 years. She lived in the Yun family for 16 years and was doted on by them for 16 years, so she could not be calculative about everything. But he was different. His sister was pushed into the abyss step by step by them. In the end, she even died because she was nosy and was hated by others. So, Tang Lin became evil. From this day onwards, he used everything he learned to target Yun-Yi. He could be considered the villain in this story. Whether it was the Yun family or Yun-Yi and her husband, they were all targeted by her. Of course, he was not the main character and failed in the end. Netcomputer, www.com. After reading this heavy story, Tang Guo looked at the scenery outside the window that was constantly retreating. For a moment, she was a little absent-minded. This was because the people inside, especially the Yun family, were indeed difficult to evaluate. As for Yun-Yi, she only enjoyed their love and did not do anything bad. Netmobilephone/m. .com/the Yun family simply wanted to compensate her for the loss of money. In the entertainment industry, it was normal for them to use their capital to rob her. The original owner didn't deal with it. Instead, she complained, which was rare. However, she was a little unlucky. She was too soft-hearted and kind. Dear host, what do you plan to do? Do you want to take revenge on the Yun family? I was suppressed so badly, but she never took revenge. Do you think I can take revenge? Sigh, but this doesn't seem like your style. Don't take revenge. Just protect what you want and don't let it be snatched away. Isn't that enough? Since we're playing in that circle, let's see who's better. I have to continue fulfilling my dreams. In this lifetime, I'll get a few more awards. The system trembled. The host seemed to be very serious. She didn't take revenge on the Yun family, but the Yun family couldn't snatch things from her. Very good, very good. Also, take good care of your younger brother. Tang Guo added, he's so smart. It's best for him to become a scientist and contribute to mankind. System, okay, you have the final say. I want to chat with more like-minded people about. Chapter 2489. 3 hours later, the Yun family's motorcade drove into the village where family Tang was located. Currently, the entire country was developing new villages. Therefore, this small village chief who was a little backward more than 10 years ago had now built small buildings in every household. Those who were slightly more diligent were living a good life. There was a road in the village, so the Yun family drove directly to the entrance of family Tang. Family Tang was also a small 2-story building, and there were many flowers and plants around it. The bricks and tiles of every household, and some of the details and decorations on the outside of the building were basically the same. Therefore, along the way, the village gave people the feeling that it was relatively clean and tidy. It was very comfortable to look at. Family Tang's small building was surrounded by a wall. The Yun family drove 4 cars over. Coincidentally, there was a courtyard outside, so they simply parked their cars there. Family Tang had received the news, so they were already prepared. Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong had been looking into the distance from upstairs. When they saw the 4 luxury cars that had never appeared in the village, the 2 of them hurriedly came down. When the Yun family called them, Duan Yuhong was extremely scared. That day, she brought Yun-Yi to buy a lot of new clothes and toys. She even specially decorated a room for Yun-Yi. Now, she hoped that the Yun family would quickly take Yun-Yi away and not pursue so much. As for the reward, she did not dare to ask for it. If the Yun family stayed here for too long and heard any rumors, it would not be good. Xiaogua, we're here. Other than Tanggua, the Yun family members all got out of the car. Yun Zishu reminded her and patted her shoulder. If there's anything in the future, you can call me. I'm still your 3rd brother. Tanggua glanced from the open car door. The Yun couple, Yun Zimo, and Yun Zishan were all looking at family Tang's entrance with anticipation. But big brother and second brother are no longer my big brother and second brother. Yun Zishu wanted to say something, but Tanggua looked up and smiled at him. But it's okay. In these 16 years, I've indeed enjoyed things that originally did not belong to me. Even if 3rd brother is no longer my 3rd brother in the future, it's okay. The mistake has been corrected, so I should be satisfied. Thinking about it, when the original owner got out of the car and walked into family Tang's entrance, she must have thought the same. She only carried a backpack, clothes, dresses, jewelry. She did not take anything that she had received from the Yun family. In the backpack, she was carrying a high school textbook. It was still a little heavy. Yun, you don't have to help me. Yun Zishu looked at her smile and still felt a little sad. Actually, he didn't think it was a big deal for the Yun family to raise 2 younger sisters. However, other than him, everyone else in the Yun family felt that it was better to exchange them back. Tanggua carried a heavy backpack and got off the car. She first walked in front of the Yun couple and Yun Zimo and Yun Zishan and thanked them. Then, she took the initiative to knock on the door. Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong knew that they were here, so when she knocked on the door opened. The Yun couple, Yun Zimo, and Yun Zishan wanted to say something to Tanggua, but they did not have the chance. Chapter 2490. At this moment, they suddenly realized that they were too cold to her. After all, they had lived together for 16 years. At this moment, they were still reluctant to part with her. Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong were very enthusiastic. Both of them looked decent and didn't look like bad people. As long as one hadn't interacted with them before, the first impression would be that they were very easy to get along with. In the plot, Tang Wen wasn't here. Duan Yuhong sent her to her mother's house. She was probably afraid that Tang Wen would be exposed if she was here. Her biological brother was here. Thanks to the Yun family, he also received a new set of clothes. Actually, this matter was very simple. It was just that both sides returned to their places. The Yun family had already settled the matter of her transfer. Her grades were very good. With such a transfer student, the school was very happy to see her, so it wasn't a difficult matter at all. The Yun family had originally planned to pay for her entire high school tuition, but the original host refused. She was no longer a member of the Yun family. There was no need to owe them and enjoy their help. Since they were afraid that her existence would affect Yun, she didn't want to accept these favors, in case she couldn't repay them in the future. It had to be said that the original host was very arrogant. The clothes that Tang Guo was wearing now were bought with the last bit of money she had earned. It was no longer the high-end custom-made clothes she used to wear. So now, other than this set of clothes and the books in her backpack, she had nothing. As the saying goes, a clean past and a clean return. Perhaps she was sad, but no matter how sad she was, she couldn't change everything. She couldn't bear to leave, but so what? None of this belonged to her. She didn't have the right to keep it. She had already decided. If she still licked her face, wouldn't she be causing trouble for her? As for her name and Yun Yi's name, the Yun family had settled it. As long as they gave the order, there would naturally be people who would help them with these small matters. Now, she was Tang Guo. Yun Yi was Yun Yi, and not Yun Guo and Tang Yi. Duan Yuhong hurriedly brought Yun Yi out. She was wearing a beautiful dress and her skin was white. Other than being a little thin and a little timid, there was nothing wrong with her. Because Duan Yuhong had been treating Yun Yi very well these days, Yun Yi's complexion improved a lot. Tang Guo had only met Yun Yi once, and neither of them had spoken. Basically, it was the Yun family and the family Tang couple who spoke. In just half an hour, Yun Yi was surrounded by the Yun family and carefully taken away. Tang Guo only glanced at it and didn't look at it anymore. Perhaps due to the deterrence of the Yun family, Duan Yuhong did not immediately reveal her true identity. She was still polite to her and sent her to Yun Yi's room. Tang Guo also addressed Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong politely. She addressed Tang Liming as father, while Duan Yuhong was naturally Auntie Duan. She wanted her to call her mom. Dream on. She didn't even want to call him Tang Liming. However, he was indeed the father of this body. If there was a conflict, she wouldn't be in the right. Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong were not close to her. They just said a few words to let her know that this was her home, and then the two of them went back to their room. In that room, there was a rustling sound, but it wasn't clear. Tang Guo was smarter than the average person, and she heard the general idea. Peek. Chapter 2491. The two of them were discussing why she didn't bring any luggage back, whether she had brought a card, and whether the Yun family had given her a lot of money. Tang Guo looked around the room and placed the book on the table. Duan Yuhong must have spent a lot of money to set this up. She was probably dead now because the Yun family was in a hurry to take Yun Yi back and had no interest in observing Yun Yi's room. At this moment, Duan Yuhong was indeed complaining to Tang Liming. They didn't even come in to take a look. Luckily, I prepared so much. If I had known, I wouldn't have gone through so much trouble. That wretched girl really cost me a lot of money. Alright, this is also for insurance. If they were interested and really wanted to go in to take a look, wouldn't they be exposed? Now that they have finally taken her away, we can finally breathe a sigh of relief. If they pursue the matter, we really can't afford to offend a family like the Yun family. Duan Yuhong also knew that she really didn't expect the Yun family to still be able to find her after so many years. At that time, she also didn't expect the woman in the room to have such a powerful background. She was Madame Yun. At that time, there wasn't a single person by Madame Yun's side. How unlucky. She had let that woman's daughter enjoy 16 years of luxury for nothing. She was really angry. Liming, why do you think that girl didn't bring any luggage back? Wasn't she once a rich young lady? It can't be that she doesn't have anything, right? And that heavy backpack looks like books to me. He's dressed like that. Are all the rich people's lives so simple these days? Tang Liming hesitated for a moment. Maybe she brought a card. She's already 16 years old. Didn't the Yun family get her an ID card before? There must be a card. I think the Yun family wouldn't treat her badly. There must be money in the card. Xiao Gua is only 16 years old. She needs a lot of money. It's definitely not safe to keep it on her. Liming, find some time to ask. If there really is a card, let her hand it to us for safekeeping. What if she gets cheated? Tang Liming didn't object and thought that Duan Yuhong was right. Tang Guo wasn't interested in what the two of them were talking about. She could guess that they were probably plotting against her. Unfortunately, they were disappointed. She only had a few hundred yuan on her and nothing else. Tang Guo was sorting out the books when she suddenly felt a gaze behind her. She suddenly turned around and startled a skinny boy. This was Tang Lin, 10 years old this year. However, because of Duan Yuhong's rubbing, his height was not even 10 years old. He was even shorter and looked like he was malnourished. If it wasn't for Duan Yuhong's recent improvement in his diet, he might have been in a much worse state. Are you my younger brother? Tang Lin knew that his biological sister would be sent back today. It was said that his original sister was not his biological sister, but the daughter of a rich family. She had been swapped at birth. He and Yun-Yi didn't have a good relationship before. Yun-Yi was probably afraid of being bullied. Her temper was very weak. Furthermore, he was also powerless to protect himself. Basically, when the two of them sat together alone, they were both reticent and rarely communicated. Now that his sister had been sent back, he was still very curious. Previously, he had been secretly watching from the side and found that his biological sister was really beautiful. Although Yun-Yi was also quite pretty, for some reason, he still felt that his biological sister was prettier and couldn't help but want to get closer to her. Chapter 2492. Sis. Sister. Tang Lin was still a little shy, but he really couldn't help but get close to this beautiful sister of his. She told him directly that his biological sister was very good. Good boy. Tang Guo quickly walked in front of Tang Lin, touched his little head, and pinched his little face. Although this kid was a little thin, his eyes were bright and he looked very handsome. She thought that Tang Lin looked like his biological mother. With Tang Liming's character, could he inherit any outstanding genes? It would be good enough if he didn't drag her down. System, what a double standard. Although his head and face were touched, Tang Lin didn't dislike it at all. Duan Yuhong didn't treat him well and wouldn't give him anything good to eat, but she didn't really starve him for every meal. After all, if he really starved to death, Duan Yuhong might not be able to survive in this village anymore. But if she treated him a little harshly, the others wouldn't meddle in other people's business. Basically, he ate white rice with some vegetables, while Tang Wen ate either meat or other delicious food. Anyway, he basically didn't have a share of meat. In this kind of well-off life, it was rare to see people who didn't give meat for 10 days to half a month. But Duan Yuhong didn't give him any. Tang Liming also thought that he was disobedient and didn't inherit his excellent genes, so he didn't like him at all. He didn't want to curry favor with Tang Liming at all. In fact, he even hated the two of them in his heart. Not long after his mother died, the two of them got married. In the village, there were always rumors. When he found out that the two of them had been hooking up for a long time, even if he didn't understand it the first time, he would understand after hearing it a few times. Because he was disobedient and didn't call Duan Yuhong mom, Tang Liming disliked him even more. Basically, if he didn't like him, he would catch him and beat him up. Duan Yuhong would pretend to persuade him, but in fact, she didn't have any intention of stopping him. Duan Yuhong didn't beat or scold him, because it was basically Tang Liming who beat him up. Tang Guo felt that Tang Lin seemed to be thinking about something. He was only 10 years old, but he was already hiding everything in his heart. It was obvious that he didn't have a good life in this family. She wanted to take something out of her bag, but found that there were only books inside. She shook her head helplessly and took out a piece of chocolate from the system space. Of course, Tang Lin knew that it was chocolate. His good friend's parents often bought him such food and gave him a lot of pocket money. They had a good relationship, so they had eaten it before. As for Duan Yuhong, she would never buy him snacks. It was already good enough for him to eat. Why are you not eating? Seeing Tang Lin staring at the chocolate in a daze, Tang Guo stroked his head. There's only one piece now. When we have money in the future, I'll buy you more. Tang Lin was actually not as honest as he appeared to be. When he was younger, he liked to cause trouble. Later on, he found out that he would be beaten if he made a ruckus, and the person who beat him was his own father. If he got beaten because of his ruckus, no one would come to stop him. Hence, he learned to be smart and became taciturn in front of Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong. When they scolded him, he would go in one ear and out the other. He would do what he needed to do. He had already thought about it. When he was older and got an identity card, he would run away with it and not live in this family anymore. In the future, if he had a way, he would come back and take Yuni away. The Peak. Chapter 2493. However, everything was different now. Because of the wrong baby, Yuni had been taken away and he had a biological sister. His plan had been disrupted. In short, he couldn't run away with his identity card when he was 16 years old. His sister used to live the life of a rich young lady. If he left, he didn't know how Duan Yuhong would bully her and if she wouldn't be able to adapt here. She came to this unfamiliar place. If her only brother left, what should she do? Tang Lin frowned. He didn't realize that his biological sister was already 16 years old and he was only a 10-year-old boy. He was thinking too much. Tang Guo didn't know what Tang Lin was thinking. If she knew, she might sigh and say that he was indeed her biological brother. He had so many plans at such a young age. Tang Lin sat on the stool and tore open the wrapper of the chocolate. Under Tang Guo's expectant gaze, he broke off half of the chocolate and put it into his mouth. It was silky and smooth in his mouth. It tasted better than the ones his brother gave him. However, he wouldn't say that in front of his good brother. That would be too disrespectful. Tang Lin handed the remaining half to Tang Guo. Sister, you eat too. Tang Guo didn't refuse. Anyway, with her around, her biological brother wouldn't starve. When he went to school, she would have a way to earn money. At present, Tang Lin was still in primary school. This was thanks to the 9 years of compulsory education. If a family's child didn't go to school when they reached the age, the school would specially call to urge them. Not only would the school call, but even if the child didn't go to school, the school's teachers would even petition to ask why their child didn't go to school when he reached the age. Duan Yuhong was a cultured person. She knew that if she didn't send her child to the 9 years of compulsory education, the hospital would definitely think about it. After all, she worked in the hospital and had been strict about education for the past few years. Instead of being caught red-handed and losing her job, she would rather send Tang Lin and Yuni to school. Anyway, 9 years of compulsory education was still relatively cheap. As for asking for extra pocket money, that was impossible. Therefore, even if Duan Yuhong doted on her biological daughter, Tang Wen, and didn't treat Tang Lin and Yun Yi well, the villagers couldn't interfere. Wasn't it just that they didn't give her meat and let Yun Yi cook and do the housework? Yun Yi was still an outsider, and the villagers couldn't care about these things. Most of them would turn a blind eye to it. Occasionally, when they were interested, they would talk about it and treat it as a joke. What year are you in this year? Tang Guan knew that, but she needed to communicate with her younger brother now. Otherwise, how could she kidnap her younger brother in the future? Tang Lin quickly swallowed the chocolate before answering, 5th grade. How are the results? Tang Lin looked conflicted for a moment. So-so. In fact, for the sake of his escape plan at the age of 16, he didn't put much effort into his studies. When he was free, he would go pick up junk. Anyway, his father didn't care whether he was outstanding or not. He saw on TV that if he was too outstanding, it would easily cause his stepmother to be afraid. At that time, it wouldn't be good for his escape plan. Therefore, he was basically absent-minded in class. Only the Chinese class was more serious. After all, when he turned 16, he was going to escape from this family. There was nothing wrong with learning more words. Chapter 2494. As for mathematics, he knew the basics of addition, subtraction, and multiplication. Therefore, his Chinese and mathematics were actually not too bad. But his final results were not very good. Their school also taught English. He learned some basic English from them, but after recognizing all the letters, he didn't learn anymore. What did he do when he had nothing to do? He picked up rubbish and sold it for money. His biological father and stepmother would never give him money. In order to escape successfully, he had to start saving money now. He was too young and no one would want him as a child laborer. After thinking about it, the only way was to pick up rubbish. Now that Tang Guo asked about his results, Tang Lin felt a little embarrassed because his results were really embarrassing. Just now, he even glanced at Tang Guo's test paper on the table. Although he did not understand the questions on it, he could still understand those with high marks. He could tell at a glance that she had scored full marks for mathematics. So, he euphemistically said that her results were average. Tang Guo could tell that Tang Lin's results were a little bad at first. In the end, it was the original owner of the body who slowly helped him improve. This was also because Tang Lin was smart enough. In addition, he was only in the 5th grade now. It was not too late. Lin, you have to study hard and get into a good school in the future. Tang Lin was stunned. Get into a good school. He pursed his lips. Even if he got into a good school, Duan Yuhong might not be willing to let him study there. Maybe when he graduated from junior high school or high school, they would have the opportunity to let him work or learn skills. This kind of situation was normal in the village. There were only a few outstanding children in the village. Not every child could go to university. But since Tang Guo had said this, Tang Lin did not want to disappoint her. He nodded subconsciously. Sister, I will definitely study hard. Then study now. If you don't understand, you can ask me. Don't waste time and talent. Tang Guo's hands were itching. In the future, when her brother became a big boss in the academic world, would she be able to slack off? System, the host has changed. You have become someone he does not recognize. Tang Lin was a little dumbfounded. Study now. He had originally planned to take advantage of this good time to pick up rubbish. Although he had saved some money, he now had a sister. His sister only brought her school bag back, so she probably didn't have much money, so he had to save up his sister's share. His sister's grades seemed to be very good. Tang Lin frowned. She would definitely be able to get into university in the future. However, Duan Yuhong and Tang Liming most likely wouldn't help her pay for the school fees, so she could only rely on her younger brother. Going to university must cost a lot of money, right? However, she had heard that after she went to university, she would be able to find a good job and earn a lot of money. Her sister would also be able to leave this place. Although Tang Lin still wanted to pick up rubbish to sell, Tang Guo's voice seemed to have magic. He did whatever she asked him to do. At this moment, the two siblings were in their own rooms. Tang Guo was doing practice questions with Tang Lin. Tang Lin originally thought that he would only take out the textbook and his sister would let him read more. He never expected that his sister would flip through the teaching materials, take out a book, and give him a question. If you don't know how to do it, flip through the book and look at the example questions. If you still don't understand the example questions, you can ask me. What a serious sister. But he couldn't refuse. Since he was young, other than the teacher, this was the first time someone had asked him to do his homework so attentively. Peak. Chapter 2495. The first meal after returning to the family Tang was braised by Duan Yu. Tang Wen had not been picked up yet. Today was Saturday, so she would probably be picked up tomorrow. Tang Wen was 2 years younger than Tang Lin. She was 9 years old this year and was in the 3rd grade. This meal was quite sumptuous. Duan Yuhong's cooking was average. Perhaps it was because she did not cook often. After all, Yun Yi was the one who cooked previously. Duan Yuhong was also a nurse and had to work shifts, so she rarely had the chance to cook at home. If Yun Yi was not around, Tang Liming would be the one to cook. After eating, Duan Yuhong took the bowls and chopsticks into the kitchen to wash. If she did not have a motive, she would not be so diligent. However, Tang Liming said to Tang Lin with a straight face, "Hurry back to your room after eating." This time, Tang Lin did not move. He was a little afraid that Tang Liming would bully his sister. How could he leave at this time? However, Tang Guo patted his head. "Go ahead and finish the homework your sister gave you." Tang Lin did not want to go in, but he did not want his sister to be angry, so he could only obey. However, he did not really go back to his room. Instead, he hid in a corner. If something went wrong later, he would come out to protect his sister. "Xiao Guo, you just got home. Are you adapting well?" Tang Guo nodded. "Everything is fine. Dad knows that you were used to a good life in the past. You might not be able to adapt so well here, but this is the situation in our family. You should understand, right?" "I understand. Dad, don't worry. I'll slowly adapt. After all, I'm not a real rich missy. Actually, an ordinary life is not bad. I'll work hard in school and fight for a future for myself." Tang Liming nodded, looking relieved. "Xiao Guo is so sensible. Yes, you're not a real rich missy." After a pause, he asked, "So, Xiao Guo, you didn't take the Yun family's money and leave, right? Let me tell you, although our family is not that rich, they don't owe us anything, so you can't take those things. If you really took it, you have to hand it over and Dad will return it to them." Tang Guo smiled coldly in her heart. No wonder he was so enthusiastic. It turned out that he wanted to coax something from her hands. "Dad, I didn't take anything from the Yun family. In the past, they sold me all kinds of gold, silver, and jewelry. Whether it was jade pendants worth millions or small toys worth a few hundred yuan, I didn't take any of it." Tang Guo smiled and pointed at her clothes. "When I heard that I wasn't the biological daughter of the Yun family, I bought 2 sets of these ordinary clothes. They cost dozens of yuan each. I didn't bring any of the custom-made clothes that cost tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. Dad, if you don't believe me, you can search my bag. I only brought a change of clothes. The rest are all books and my ID card. As for the awards and trophies I received in the past, I took a few photos as a souvenir. After all, some trophies were made of gold and silver. The things I obtained were all nurtured by the Yun family, so I didn't bring them back. Dad, look, my shoes are also very ordinary. They cost 50 yuan a pair. I found my backpack on the internet. It costs 60 yuan. It's a random brand. It's very convenient to store things, and the quality is not bad. It's quite practical. Don't worry, the money I used to buy these was earned from my part-time job on the weekends. When Tang Liming heard Tang Guo's words, his face twitched. He didn't want to believe it, but Tang Guo looked like she was telling the truth. The smug expression on the little girl's face made him want to vomit blood. Duan Yuhong, who was eavesdropping in the kitchen, almost vomited blood when she heard that she didn't bring the jade pendants worth millions and custom-made clothes worth tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. Tang Liming paused and asked, "What about the money? Did you take any money from them?" "No, Dad. Didn't I change my ID card? I returned all the money in the card to them and cancelled all the cards. I also cancelled Taobao's account. I don't have money now, so I can only apply for it in the future." Peak. Chapter 2496. Xiaogua, you're not a good kid when you lie. Tang Liming paused and finally suppressed his anger. He still couldn't believe that Tang Guo didn't bring anything back. Even if she didn't take it with her, didn't the Yun family think of giving her something? After all, they had raised her for 16 years. They couldn't be so heartless, right? Actually, after the Yun family found out about this, they became busy discussing how to bring Yuni back. Yun Zishu was the only one who was more concerned about Tang Guo. The others seemed to have subconsciously ignored this problem. Tang Guo didn't bring any luggage back and they didn't force her because they didn't know that Tang Guo really didn't take anything with her. Even if Tang Guo took the money they gave her and the expensive things they bought, they wouldn't say anything. Moreover, they had to get someone to pack those things before bringing Yuni back. They definitely couldn't give them to Yuni, not even if she saw them. They were afraid that if they saw the things, they would think of her and hurt Yun-yi, who had led a wandering life since she was young. Only Yun Zishu asked Tang Guo if he could get someone to send those things to her later. When Tang Guo came back with only a backpack, the Yun family actually heaved a sigh of relief. They were really afraid that Tang Guo would bring everything back on the same day. They didn't know if Yun-yi would be sad if she saw it. Now, their minds were filled with how much Yun-yi had suffered outside and how they had to make it up to her. They completely ignored the obedient Tang Guo who had been obedient since she was young. Although Yun Zishu didn't feel good, he couldn't stop them. If he really said it, the whole family would think that he didn't love his biological sister. If his biological sister found out, she would be very sad. "Dad, why don't you come back to the room with me? If you don't believe me, you can go in and check. Dad is just worried that you took other people's things, so I have to check." Tang Liming didn't care about his pride. Since he had already said this, he wouldn't be at ease if he didn't check it himself. He really didn't believe that Tang Guo didn't bring anything back. In the room, Tang Guo pointed to the backpack on the table. "Dad, you can check it yourself. I really didn't hide anything." As for the hundreds of dollars that the original owner had on her, she had put them all into the system space. She only had a few dozen dollars left on her. Even if Tang Liming poked a hole in her backpack, he wouldn't find anything good. Tang Liming flipped through the book very carefully. He even flipped through every single page of the book. He had no idea that the way he checked Tang Guo's backpack was extremely ugly. Tang Lin hid at the door and stood there expressionlessly watching the scene. Sure enough, his sister was bullied as soon as she returned. Tang Lin clenched his fists. He had to work hard to pick up more trash. When he could get an ID card, he would be able to earn money to support his sister's university studies. Tang Guo glanced at the door and almost laughed when she saw Tang Lin's angry and serious face. He didn't know what strange things were going through this kid's mind right now. After the backpack was rummaged through, Tang Liming finally put down the backpack in a daze and gripped it tightly. Just as he was about to break down, Tang Guo's little face lit up with a smile. "Dad, you should be relieved now, right? I really don't dare to take other people's things." Chapter 2497. I have my own hands and feet. I will fight for everything myself in the future. I believe that Dad's careful inspection is because you don't want me to reap without sowing and take advantage of others. Dad, don't worry. I will listen to you. I won't take advantage of others. In the future, I will walk step by step on the ground. I'm really happy that I have such a good dad. System, host, that's enough. Look, your dad is about to die of anger. Don't shrink back. Tang Liming was indeed about to die of anger. However, Tang Guo's face was full of smiles. She even praised him and promised him that she wouldn't take other people's things. She even looked as if she was proud to have a dad like him. At this moment, his mood was as if he had been a beggar for a lifetime and was finally able to eat a piece of red braised pork. However, after eating the red braised pork, someone told him that the red braised pork was covered with a layer of feces and he couldn't spit it out even if he wanted to. He couldn't help but recall the delicious taste of the red braised pork. The father and daughter returned downstairs and sat in the living room. Tang Liming was obviously very angry, but he still had to show a gratified smile. The reason why he treated Tang Guo differently from Yun Yi was that Yun Yi grew up here. She had always been a pushover and was not his child. Of course, he didn't care about her life or death. However, Tang Guo had lived the life of a rich young lady since childhood. In fact, in front of her, he, a rough man, was quite frightened. He was different from Duan Yuhong. He didn't continue to go to school after graduating from junior high school. Duan Yuhong went to medical school and later became a nurse in the hospital. In fact, in front of him, Tang Guo was completely different from a village girl. He didn't know how to handle her. Moreover, he didn't know the Yun family's attitude. If they really did something to her, she could just call them back. Who knew what the Yun family would do? The reason why the original owner was bullied by this family was that she thought that she could just take some money to send them away. However, she didn't know that when she was still a high school student, she took money home. This gave Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong a way out. Since she could take out money, why didn't they accept it and even take more money from her? Shameless people had no bottom line and no face. Don't even think about making a one-time deal with such a person. As long as there was a transaction, the other party would be like a sticky candy, sticking to you so tightly that you couldn't even pull it off. Even if the original owner didn't get involved with the Yun family, if she had stuck to her bottom line and didn't give the family any money, these two people wouldn't have dared to do anything to her. This was because they didn't know the Yun family's attitude towards her. Moreover, the aura of a rich young lady emanating from her body was enough to make people shudder. Perhaps it was because of the environment she grew up in and her age, but she did not know how difficult it was to deal with such a shameless person. To deal with this kind of foot-binding cloth, one couldn't give any benefits. Giving any benefits would be equivalent to lowering one's bottom line. As the saying goes, the shameless are afraid of those who don't care about their lives. The one who would cower would definitely be the other party. Of course, he still had to put in some effort. Duan Yuhong could tell from Tang Liming's expression that he didn't find anything. Her face immediately darkened. Could it be that they really didn't bring anything back? When she thought of the custom-made dresses, clothes, and jade pendants that were worth tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands that Tang Gua had mentioned before, her heart ached terribly. Chapter 2498. Any of these things would be enough to buy a house in the county. But this wretched girl really didn't bring back a single one. Her heart really ached, but she could only smile. Xiao Gua is really a very sensible child. She knows that it's not good to take other people's things. I was worried before that I wouldn't get along well with my family. Now that I see Dad and Auntie Duan, I believe that our family will get better and better. Tang Gua smiled. Auntie Duan is really the same as I imagined a village woman to be. Hardworking, down-to-earth, considerate, has a nice voice, looks good, and the food she cooks is also delicious. When I think about how I can eat Auntie Duan's food every day, I feel very happy. Although there are no days of glory and wealth, it's my fortune to be able to live in such a warm family. System, host, enough. They're really going to be angered to death. Duan Yuhong's smile was a little stiff. She didn't know how to respond. What did she mean by the same as a village woman? She was from the city. She was quite lively, down-to-earth, considerate, had a nice voice, and looked good. Those were her strengths. But when these words came out of this wretched girl's mouth, she felt a little uncomfortable. She even said that she wanted to eat her food every day. Duan Yuhong almost scolded her. You lazy girl, of course you have to cook. But then she thought about it. Tang Guo was a rich young miss. She glanced at her pair of jade white hands and was afraid that she didn't know how to cook. Since Xiao Guo likes to eat Auntie's food, Auntie will teach you this special skill someday. When you want to eat it, you can cook it yourself. Really? Tang Guo was a little surprised. Auntie Duan is really willing to teach me. Her eyes suddenly dimmed. When I was in the Yun family, I also wanted to learn how to cook. They even invited many chefs to teach me, but I didn't seem to have learned. From then on, they even refused to let me into the kitchen. Auntie Duan, so you're really willing to teach me? Hearing the first half of Tang Guo's words, Duan Yuhong's heart thumped. Could it be that this wretched girl couldn't learn? In the end, she gritted her teeth. She didn't believe that there were people in this world who couldn't cook. If they couldn't cook once, then she would teach them a few more times. At that time, he could even use the excuse of practicing his culinary skills to have this girl cook for him every day. After Yuni left, this girl was not bad to replace her. Right now, she was no longer the daughter of a rich family. A gentle smile appeared on Duan Yuhong's face. Of course, since you've returned to this home, you're also my daughter. If you want to learn these things, I'll teach you. Auntie will not only teach you how to cook, but she will also teach you how to clean the house, wash the clothes, and mop the floor. In an ordinary family like ours, you will definitely have to learn. Our family also planted some land. When the time comes, Auntie will teach you how to plant and harvest crops. Auntie, you're really a good person. Duan Yuhong sneered in her heart. She didn't know whether it was good or not. She only knew that if she taught this girl everything, there would be another Yun-yi in the family. Who cares if you're the daughter of a rich family? When you come back here, you're still a village girl. You have to do what you have to do. Tang Guo's lips curved into a faint smile. No matter how strong you are, no matter how much you teach, if she doesn't know how to do it, she doesn't know how to do it. Could it be that this woman could turn her into a marionette and make her do these things? Chapter 2499. Xiao Gua, I'll teach you how to cook tomorrow. It's the easiest. After you learn how to cook, I'll teach you the rest. Okay, Auntie Duan. I think I'm too stupid, so let's wake up earlier tomorrow to learn. Tanguo was looking forward to it. How about we wake up at 4? I'm afraid I won't be able to learn and will delay everyone's breakfast. Duan Yuhong was stunned. 4 o'clock. That was too early. This week happened to be her vacation. It was rare for her to have such time. She wanted to sleep in until 9 or 10 o'clock. As for breakfast, she would let Tang Liming cook some noodles. After lunch, she still had to pick up Tang Wen. However, seeing Tang Guo's expectant look, she also wanted to teach this girl as soon as possible. Then, there would be someone to take over all the chores at home. After thinking about it, she agreed. Okay, then we'll wake up at 4 o'clock. If the system had a face, it really wanted to cover its face. Why did it feel like it was watching a palace drama? There was another person who was also very shocked by all of this. This person was naturally worried about Tanguo. He was afraid that she would be bullied, so he hid at the side and secretly watched. He originally thought that Tanguo would be bullied, but he didn't expect that she would be able to chat happily with that couple. Although his sister said that she wanted to learn how to cook, why did he feel that the scene just now was a little strange? Moreover, he also saw that the couple's faces were about to turn green when they heard his sister say that she didn't bring anything back. This was the first time he saw them being so aggrieved. Tang Lin's eyes became brighter and brighter. He felt that his biological sister was smarter. Duan Yuhong and Tang Liming thought that there would be no results if they continued to torment Tanguo, so they simply let her go and rest. This village was a new village. Except for not having a luxurious life since childhood, it was actually quite convenient. In summer, there was a solar water heater, and in winter, there was also an electric water heater. Especially since Duan Yuhong was also used to enjoying life. Her family had to have what others had. Tanguo took a shower and went to sleep. Tomorrow, he would have to wake up at 4 o'clock to torture Duan Yuhong. It was only 8 o'clock now. He would sleep from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock. 8 hours was enough. Duan Yuhong, on the other hand, wouldn't go to bed so early. Nowadays, the mobile internet was relatively advanced. Even if she didn't play these games, she probably wouldn't be able to sleep after everything that had happened today. As Tanguo expected, Duan Yuhong went to bed at 11 o'clock. She tossed and turned and didn't fall asleep until 2 o'clock. Because he had set an alarm before, the alarm rang at 4 o'clock sharp. Duan Yuhong was sleepy. She was ready to turn off the alarm clock and go back to sleep. As for teaching Tanguo how to cook, she would do it another day. She was really sleepy. Auntie Duan, are you up? I heard your alarm go off. You should be awake, right? Tanguo's voice sounded like a ghost from outside the door. Duan Yuhong woke up with a start, but her eyelids were still heavy. She was extremely sleepy. After about a minute, Tanguo's voice sounded again. Auntie Duan, if you don't want to teach me these, then forget it. After all, this is your unique skill. In the future, you will definitely teach little Wen. This time, Duan Yuhong had to get up even if she didn't want to. Little Wen was her precious daughter. She had been pampered since she was young and was not inferior to those rich young ladies. It was just that her life at home was not as luxurious as those rich young ladies. However, she gave all the good things to little Wen. Chapter 2500. It was impossible for Xiao Wen to cook. Her daughter was still smiling. This girl was really naughty. Duan Yuhong yawned and put on her clothes. When she opened the door, she saw Tanguo standing at the door with her sleeves rolled up. It seemed like she really wanted to learn how to cook from her. Let's go. I'll ask you to make noodles today. The custom here was to knead the noodles with their own flour and roll them out with a rolling pin. Although some people would buy packaged finished products, they all thought that the finished products were not as delicious as the ones they rolled out themselves. When they had time, they would roll the noodles themselves. Moreover, Duan Yuhong chose this because she wanted to rub the wretched girl's cheeks. She originally wanted to rub Tanggua, but she never expected that she would be the one being rubbed. Auntie Duan, I'm sorry. Did I add too much water? Auntie Duan, I'm sorry. I got flour all over my face. It's all my fault. I'll be more careful next time. Auntie Duan, why is it that the noodles I make are all lumps, but yours are noodles? Auntie Duan, making noodles is really too difficult. I've disappointed you. Duan Yuhong looked at the lumps of noodles in the pot and then looked at the innocent Tanggua. She was super angry. When I was in the Yun family, so many cooks taught me, but I didn't learn anything. It seems like I really don't have any talent in this area. Duan Yuhong was about to get angry, but when she heard this, her anger was extinguished. This girl grew up in the Yun family. She might even be pitied by the Yun family. She couldn't be angry. I don't even know how to make noodles now. If they know in the future, they might laugh at me. Duan Yuhong understood something. Do you still have their phone numbers? Of course I have to. Tanggua had a strange look on her face. They raised me for 16 years. I have to greet them during festivals. Moreover, third brother of the Yun family said that if I miss them, I can call them. Although I don't want to disturb them usually, I have to greet them during festivals. Can everything be cut off if I really leave them? Duan Yuhong thought about it and agreed. How could a relationship of 16 years be broken so cleanly all of a sudden? In that case, she really couldn't force her to do anything. She couldn't even get angry. She could only slowly guide her and make her work willingly. The reason why the original owner had never contacted the Yun family was because of the Yun family's attitude. She was very disappointed and sad. In short, she was very sad. Tanggua was different. Although she didn't go to see them or call them often, she would politely send them a text message or something during festivals. After all, they had lived together for 16 years. Every time there was a festival, they should greet each other. Even ordinary friends would do the same. She would not deliberately target them. As she had said before, she would protect the things she cared about and fight for what she wanted. If the Yun family came to snatch it again, it would depend on whether they could snatch it away. It seems that you really don't have any talent in making noodles. Let me teach you how to cook. Duan Yuhong is not in the mood to sleep now. She has to find a way to teach this girl something as soon as possible. The housework at home depends on this girl. Auntie Duan, the shredded potatoes you cut are really thin. I'm so envious. Chapter 25:01. Why don't the potatoes listen to me when they're in my hands? Why are the shredded potatoes thicker than a finger when I cut them? Duan Yuhong wanted to curse on the spot. Are those shredded potatoes? They're obviously potato strips. I've been training for a while, Duan Yuhong replied with a smile. Her face was gentle, but her chest was about to explode. Damn, she was so angry. What rich young miss. She was just a moron who didn't know anything. Tanggua, if you don't know, then you don't know. Why do you have to teach me? I already told you I don't know. System, who did you learn to be so eccentric? I'm afraid that one day, the host will be immersed in this character's setting and not be able to walk out. Then let's learn how to scramble eggs with tomatoes. Duan Yuhong took a deep breath. This was the easiest. If she didn't know how to cook, she wanted to die. Auntie Duan, why is my egg paste in the pot? Duan Yuhong turned around and saw the lid on the pot. She couldn't help but ask, what happened? The egg is burnt and it's on fire. I know a little trick. Cover it with the lid and the fire will be extinguished. Tang Guo was a little proud. But you didn't turn off the fire. Duan Yuhong was expressionless as she quickly turned off the fire. Tang Guo's smile disappeared. Sorry, Auntie Duan. I don't know these things, but I'll learn seriously. Duan Yuhong didn't say anything. She opened the lid and looked at the burnt egg. She was about to die from anger. Didn't you add oil? No. No. Didn't you just say to break the egg, stir it with chopsticks, add some salt, stir it again, and finally put the egg in the pot and stir it until it's cooked before adding the tomatoes? I did it according to your instructions. Duan Yuhong rubbed her temples. You have to add oil before cooking. So tiring. There's not enough oil, there's too much oil. There's too much salt. It's burnt. Duan Yuhong worked until 9 in the morning. She looked at the meatball soup in front of her. The meat was all broken and had turned into minced meat soup. There was no salt. She finally gave up teaching Tang Guo how to cook. She didn't suspect that Tang Guo did it on purpose, because Tang Guo was very serious in every step. But for some reason, the results were so different that they were completely inedible. She took a deep breath. She needed to rest. She was still very sleepy. Auntie Duan, sorry to disappoint you. It's okay. Maybe you're not suitable for this. I'll teach you something else another day. She was very sleepy now and had to go back to sleep. Why don't you teach me now? I have to go to school tomorrow. In order to study well, I applied for a dormitory before, so I can only come back once a week. Duan Yuhong almost went berserk when she heard that. She actually applied for a dormitory. How infuriating. Aunt Duan, I have to go to school in the afternoon. I'll teach you when I'm free next time. Duan Yuhong was very sleepy and her eyelids were fighting. She really couldn't take it anymore. Tang Guo saw that the matter was almost settled, so she did not continue to pester him. After lunch, she had to go to school, so she wouldn't be able to meet Tang Wen this time. Sister, I'll send you there. In the eyes of the villagers, Tang Lin was more wild. He often ran around, so Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong really didn't care where he went. Moreover, in the village, even children who were a few years old liked to run around, let alone children who were in their teens. Their village was at the edge of the county, so it was relatively close to the high school. Tang Guo agreed. Not only did she agree, but she also directly brought Tang Lin to a restaurant and had a good meal. Tang Lin sat in the restaurant and looked at Tang Guo, not knowing what to do. Tang Guo reached out and patted his head. If you want to eat meat in the future, come to the school and look for me. I'll take you to eat it. Sister, you have money. Not much, but I'll earn a lot. In the future, I'll have a lot. How? Don't you still have to study? Tang Guo leaned over to Tang Lin's ear. Not everyone has good grades like your sister. I can make money by tutoring them and improving their grades. Pfft! At this moment, a mocking laughter came from the neighboring seat. Peek. Chapter 2502. Tang Guo followed the source of the laughter and saw a few teenagers sitting next to her. The one who whispered was lying lazily on the chair with a cigarette in one hand. When he realized that Tang Guo was looking at him, he took a puff of the cigarette and whistled at Tang Guo. Little beauty, why are you staring at me? Are you fascinated by my handsome appearance? The teenager's smug smile suddenly disappeared because Tang Guo only gave him a look of disdain, as if to say that she really didn't like a pig like him. The look of disdain in her eyes made him lose face. What, am I not handsome? The teenager quickly got up and walked in front of Tang Guo. He asked condescendingly, "Am I not handsome?" The other teenagers behind him also had mischievous looks on their faces. Young Master Chui was their school's most handsome boy and school bully. There were really not many people who looked better than young Master Chui. Ever since he came to this county's high school, no one dared to claim first place if he dared to claim second place. Tang Lin knew Chui Taixin, although Chui Taixin didn't know him. But he often ran outside. Well, when he was picking up trash, he would often see Chui Taixin wandering around with a few people. Anyway, whoever dared to provoke Chui Taixin would be ruthlessly taught a lesson by him. He was lucky enough to see Chui Taixin a few times. When Chui Taixin just came to the county, because he was too arrogant, many people came to find trouble with him in groups. It was in that small alley that a fight broke out between the two sides. In the end, the people who came to find trouble with Chui Taixin were all beaten up by him. Although he didn't know much, he could see from the scene that Chui Taixin's skills were very good. The others were simply a mob and couldn't be his opponent. Tang Lin was very worried. What if Chui Taixin really had some ideas because of his sister's beauty? How could he protect his sister? "I've seen people more handsome than you." Tang Guo wasn't afraid of the arrogant teenager in front of her at all. Her gaze swept past the teenager and finally landed behind him. "That person is behind you. I think he's much more handsome than you." "Who? Who can be more handsome than me?" Chui Taixin was a little unconvinced. Ever since he was sent to this small town, he had never seen anyone who looked better than him. They had the genes of the Rong family, so they were definitely good-looking. Few people could compare with them. However, when he turned around, his originally aggressive appearance was immediately deflated. Little uncle." Chui Taixin was a little speechless. Didn't he just come out to eat a good meal? To think that he would bump into his little uncle here. Thinking of his uncle's means, his legs and stomach trembled. He hurriedly put his hand behind his back, holding the unfinished cigarette in his palm, which burned him to death. A young man in his early 20s walked out of the private room of the restaurant. Just as Tang Guo said, the young man's appearance was better than Chui Taixin's. Chui Taixin was still a teenager after all, and he still had a childish air about him. And this young man, whether it was his appearance or his youth, was at his most perfect. The corners of his lips were slightly raised, and he had a pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes. Wearing a white shirt and trousers, he put one hand in his trouser pocket and walked unhurriedly to Chui Taixin. "Taixin, you're smoking behind my back again." Chui Taixin looked flustered and hurriedly threw away the cigarette but hidden behind him. Chapter 2503. "Little uncle, how come I don't know?" "You must have seen wrongly." Chui Taixin hurriedly denied it. Now that he had thrown away all the evidence, he raised his head and answered confidently. If he couldn't find any evidence, so what if he was his little uncle? He couldn't accuse him for no reason. The smile in the young man's eyes did not disappear. He pointed at the ceiling with his slender fingers. "Do you want me to help you check the surveillance footage of this restaurant and see what you did just now?" Chui Taixin cursed in his heart. He raised his head subconsciously and realized that he was facing a camera. His face turned pale. Chui Taixin's expression changed again and again. Finally, he gave a flattering smile. "Little uncle, I'm 17 today. I'll be an adult soon." "Little uncle, as an adult man, there will always be some troubles. That's why I smoke once in a while to calm myself down." "Is that so?" This sentence made Chui Taixin very worried. This little uncle of his had sharp eyes. Ever since he was young, no matter what he did, he couldn't hide it from his eyes. He was only a few years older than him, but he was treated like grass by the whole family while his little uncle was the treasure of the whole family. "You smoke to calm your troubles." Then your troubles are that you're still in the first year of high school at the age of 17, and that a 17-year-old first year of high school student is actually the last in class. The young man's expression seemed to always be the same. There was a faint smile on his lips as if he was someone who didn't change his expression. The smile in his eyes seemed to be able to see through anyone's disguise. Tang Guo realized that after the young man said that, Cui Taixin's face flushed red. His voice was very soft, but Tang Guo still heard it clearly. Little uncle, I don't want it. Face. Let me tell you, you'd better. Cui Taixin's expression was very angry, but when he saw the young man smile, he let out a long sigh and his voice became even softer. It's fine if you talk about me at home, but at least give your nephew some face outside. I'll be 18 next year. My brothers are still there. How can I establish my authority in front of them in the future? After Tang Guo heard it, she laughed out loud. She laughed out loud. She laughed out loud. When Cui Taixin heard this, he turned around and glared at her. What are you laughing at? Besides, not only do you litter, but you've also learned to be fierce to girls. Do you want to stay in this small county for the rest of your life? The young man's words made Cui Taixin curl his lips. In the end, he lowered his head and muttered, if I don't want to go back, then so be it. There's nothing wrong with this small county. Anyway, in that family, I'm not valued. I'm not even as good as that illegitimate son who's older than me. Are you willing? Of course he was unwilling. If he was willing to accept all of this, he wouldn't have caused such a ruckus. There wasn't a single good person in the Cui family. If not for the fact that his father had cheated on his mother's feelings and had an illegitimate child with someone else before they got married, he would not have been able to hide it from his mother. His mother was in poor health and passed away when he was very young. Later on, that man actually married someone else very quickly. That woman even brought a child into the house. It was only later that he found out that the child was actually an illegitimate child before their marriage. How could he not be angry? How could he not make a fuss? Unfortunately, his cheap father was too biased. He favored the mother and son in everything. He had no place in the family at all. Chapter 2504. Pick up the trash and come back with me. After the young man spoke, Cui Taixin really did not want to eat with his brothers anymore. He turned around and picked up the cigarette but in his hand and followed the young man with a dejected expression. Taixin is not sensible. I apologize to you. I have already paid for the meal. Take it as my apology to you on behalf of Taixin. It's okay. Tang Guo replied with a smile, by the way, I just heard that this little brother is in the first year of high school. Yes. The young man glanced at Cui Taixin, who still wanted to stare at Tang Guo. His grades are not very good. Oh, is that so? Tang Guo's eyes lit up, then, big brother, are you interested in hiring a tutor for this little brother? The young man originally did not intend to talk much, although the little girl sitting there eating was very attractive. When he came out of the private room, the first person he noticed was her. There was even a moment when he wanted to walk directly to her side. But he quickly sobered up. This was a little girl. What was he thinking about? I have invited countless tutors, but they were all tossed away by him. In this regard, the young man was somewhat helpless. However, I am going to invite a few more tutors for him. There will always be a suitable tutor. Then, what do you think of me? When Tang Guo finished speaking, almost everyone who heard this sentence looked at her in unison. What do you think of her? Is she recommending herself? Tang Guo did not dawdle. She quickly opened her backpack and took out her previous test papers. Do you want to check my grades? Then, she took out her phone and turned it on. Fortunately, the original owner had taken pictures of all her award records and results before. These are my results. The young man looked at the test papers in front of him and gently raised his eyebrows. He took the stack of test papers from the pair of white little hands and flipped through them. These were all the test papers Tanguy had taken this semester. In fact, at this time, the final exam was approaching. When he flipped through them, the young man's face was full of surprise. Cui Taixin stood on tiptoe to take a look. He also wanted to see what ability this boastful little girl had to dare to be his tutor. However, when he saw that all the papers were full marks, he was so scared that he trembled and almost fell to the ground. What kind of monster was this? How could he get full marks in high school? While the young man was looking at the test paper, Cui Taixin went to look at Tanguy's mobile phone. Tanguy did not refuse and directly let him take the mobile phone. Due to some special circumstances, I changed my name. I used to be called Yunguo, but now I'm called Tanguy. There's no need for me to lie to you about this. Besides, I've just transferred to the county's #1 middle school. As for whether it's true or not, I'll know once I ask. The young man and Cui Taixin didn't doubt this at all. The young man was just surprised that this little girl was so powerful. Cui Taixin was horrified. Motherfucker, how did this little girl's brain grow? Everything was human, yet the difference was so big. Moreover, judging from his uncle's reaction, he seemed to be a little tempted. I think so. After the young man finished reading, then let's go to the private room to talk about this. Just like this, when Cui Taixin and Tang Lin were both dumbfounded and looking at each other, Tang Guo was invited to his private room to talk about tutoring Cui Taixin. My name is Rong Su. Taixin is my nephew. Chapter 2505. In the private room, Tanguy and Rong Su discussed how to tutor Cui Taixin. When he heard that Tanguy had also transferred to the county's #1 middle school, Rong Su said that he would think of a way to transfer Cui Taixin to her class. When the time came, he would ask her to help improve Cui Taixin's grades. Taixin, if you don't listen, you can call me at any time. After signing the contract, Rong Su even wrote his number to Tanguy. Tanguy called him back on the spot. Okay, if Taixin doesn't cooperate, I can only call Big Brother Rong Su. Cui Taixin was dumbfounded. Previously, when his little uncle picked the teachers for him, didn't he go through a lot of trouble? Why did he sell him out the moment they met? Not only that, he even wanted to transfer him to her class. Wasn't her class the top class? It wasn't good for him, a bad student, to go to that kind of top class, right? Also, she had called him little brother before. How did it become Tai Axian classmate now and call him little uncle Rong Su big brother? I'll hire you for a semester first. The basic fee is 10,000 yuan. Currently, Taixin's grades are 5th from the bottom in the whole grade. Cui Taixin was really angry. He had already told his uncle not to always say that his grades were at the bottom. Didn't he feel embarrassed to have such a bad student as his nephew? There are more than 800 students in the whole grade. Outside of the top 500, you will be paid 3,000 yuan for every increase in rank. From the top 500 to the top 200, you will be paid 5,000 yuan for every increase in rank. From the top 200 to the top 50, you will be paid 8,000 yuan for every increase in rank. From the top 50 to the top 10, you will be paid 10,000 yuan for every increase in rank. Cui Taixin was completely stunned. Was his uncle really willing to spend so much money just to improve his grades? However, he really wanted to tell him not to work hard in vain. He really didn't do it on purpose. He also wanted to study hard and improve every day to get good grades. However, he was born with a problem with the subjects he studied. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't learn. When he saw those words, he felt dizzy. Therefore, although the reward was high, no one could successfully help him improve his grades. He was only able to get 5th from the bottom because a few of his buddies were in other classes and deliberately got behind him. However, Rong-su didn't seem to care about this. The topic continued: if you can help Tai Axian get closer to the top 10, below the 5th place, 100,000 for each place. From the 5th to the 3rd place, 200,000 for each place. The 3rd place, 300,000 for each place. The 2nd place, 500,000 for each place. Cui Taixin was speechless. He really wanted to say, "Little uncle, don't waste your efforts." Tang Lin was also stunned. He was sitting at the side and counting with his fingers. It was 10,000, 100,000, and 1,000,000 at every turn. He was a little dizzy now. After picking up trash for so long, he had only managed to save less than 1,000 yuan. Thinking of this, he felt a little disheartened. Tang Guin noticed that Tang Lin seemed a little unhappy. She touched his head and asked in a low voice, "What's wrong? Are you not full?" "No." Tang Lin quickly shook his head. After hesitating for a moment, he whispered, "Sis, is it true that tutoring can earn so much money?" "It's true, but it has to be completed." Tang Lin let out a long breath. His sister was really amazing. She was smart, beautiful, and knew how to earn money. She definitely wouldn't be bullied. "Okay, I'll try my best." Tang Gua smiled indifferently. "Although I may not be able to help the 1st place, I can still help Tai Axian to improve to the 2nd place. Chapter 2506. Why? Cui Taixin asked subconsciously. Although he thought that Tang Guo was bragging, he thought that it would be very difficult to remind him of the top 10 rankings, let alone the 2nd place in the grade. "Because I want to get 1st place, Tang Guo answered matter-of-factly. "I took 1st place, so you can only get 2nd place." When Rong-su heard this, his smile became more obvious. He didn't think that there was anything wrong with Tang Guo's words. Indeed, with the excellent results she had shown, it would be easy for her to get 1st place. Even if Taixin studied for 10 lifetimes, he wouldn't be her match. "Alright, pretend I didn't ask." Cui Taixin pursed his lips. "Although your results are indeed good, it's a fool's dream if you want to help me improve my results. Do you know why my uncle gave you 10,000 yuan a semester? It's because he knows me too well. I'm not a smart person who studies. All kinds of teachers say that I'm rotten wood that can't be carved." Cui Taixin's smug look made Rong-su say, "You're getting more and more depraved. You're actually so happy that you're a piece of rotten wood." Actually, Rong-su was also trying. Cui Taixin's situation was indeed very special. He couldn't learn at all. He was clearly very smart, but no matter what subject it was, as long as he looked at it, he would have a headache. It had been like this since he was young. It could be said that this was also a strange reason why Cui Taixin was willing to degrade himself. Previously, he had invited famous teachers. He wanted to try all of this. He didn't know if it would be useful to invite a little classmate with good character and learning to help. No, his situation is different from Su Shi's. He's enlightened, but he can't accept the knowledge of the outside world. Let's put it this way, this can be considered a mental illness. It's his own biological heart that rejects these things. It's a habit that he developed after birth. He can't learn anything now. Isn't his name Cui Taixin? Tongzi, why don't you go back and look at the plot? The system hurriedly went back to look at the plot. As expected, it found Cui Taixin in the plot. After reading this person's experience since he was young, he finally understood. He thought that the host was only interested in teaching Cui Taixin because he was interested in Rong Su and needed a way to earn money. After reading Cui Taixin's character, he overwrote his previous thoughts. Cui Taixin also had some weight in the original plot. However, he was rather unlucky and miserable. He appeared in the plot as a clown. In the storyline, he was an ignorant and incompetent good-for-nothing. In the storyline, he had always been in a hopeless state living in this small county. He was the kind of person who had been abandoned by his family. However, he would occasionally return to the main camp. During a banquet, he was played by the male lead's opponent. He got drunk and was sent to Yun Yi's room. He mistakenly thought that Yun Yi was a small family that wanted to curry favor with him. Before he could do anything, he was taught a lesson by Cui Bing, who rushed in. Not only was his leg broken, but he was also expelled from the Cui family. He spent the rest of his life in this small county. Chapter 2507. If that's the case, I want to make a wish too. The system said excitedly. Tang Guo's lips curled up. Do you want to make a wish that you can have an official number in the future? The system was very embarrassed. It had been seen through again. All right, I'll allow it. Our little Tongzi will definitely have an official number in the future. The system was crazy with joy. It was the host. One day, its wish would definitely come true. Although it would occasionally send emails to the 3 2s and 3 1s, the other party said that the boss of the Spacetime Bureau had not returned yet, so there was no hope of applying for a number. After everything was settled, Rong Su sent Cui Su and Tang Guo to school. Tang Guo also asked him to help her send Tang Lin back. At the same time, she gave Tang Lin some money and told him to hide it well. He could buy whatever he wanted, but it was best not to buy anything that could be seen. It was also because Tang Lin was smart that she dared to do this. She planned to rent a house outside the school when she was free and let Tang Lin come here occasionally. When Tang Lin entered junior high school, it would be much more convenient. There was an attached junior high school. When the time came, Tang Lin would also live on campus. Everything would be easy. Cui Taixin wanted to slip away, but in the end, he was stopped by Tang Guo. I just told Big Brother Rong Su that you will live on campus too. This way, you will have more time to make up lessons. He should ask someone to send your daily necessities over later. Cui Taixin pointed at Tang Guo and gritted his teeth. All right, you win. Then, he turned around and walked into the school. Tang Guo followed behind him. Taixin, do you really not want to improve your grades? I heard that you are the school bully of this school. Don't you want to be called a top student? Cui Taixin stopped in his tracks and turned around to glance at her. Although I know you're encouraging me, what I want to say is that you don't have to waste your time on me. Your grades are so good, why don't you participate in the quiz and try to get 2 more points for the college entrance examination? But I have to teach you since I've taken the money. If you don't listen, I can only call the boss who paid the money. What do you want? Cui Taixin pursed his lips. He was a little annoyed. Did he really not want to get good results? However, so many great teachers had tried, but none of them were able to teach him. He was like a piece of rotten wood that could only be burned as firewood. I just want to tutor you. Why don't you give it a try? What if I succeed? If I succeed, I'll get a lot of money, and you'll get both fame and fortune. If you don't try, how do you know you won't succeed? Tang Guo had already taken out the teaching materials and notebooks from her backpack. Why don't we find a clean place and try it now? If you can understand what I'm saying, wouldn't that be great? Cui Taixin, of course, wanted to become outstanding. He was even more indignant that the Cui family was controlled by an illegitimate child. However, he himself was too terrible. He didn't have the ability to compete with the other party. That illegitimate child was really outstanding. Thinking of this, he felt extremely dispirited. However, when he saw the teaching materials in Tangua's hands, he thought of his little uncle. He had never given up on him, and was the only person who had never given up on him. That was why he could tolerate his little uncle's insulting of him anytime and anywhere. Because only his little uncle would treat him so well. Alright, I'll give it a try. If it doesn't work, you can't blame me. I'm like this. There's no saving me. Although his words sounded like he didn't care, Cui Taixin still brought Tangua to a quiet place. When Rong Su brought people to deliver daily necessities to Cui Taixin and found their lives, Cui Taixin was lying on the edge of a flower bed with his butt sticking out. His hand was pressed on a notebook, and he had a serious expression on his face. When she saw him, she placed her index finger on her lips, indicating for him not to make a sound. Rong Su nodded and walked gently to her side. After thinking for a while, he took out his phone and typed, "Is Tai Axian doing the questions?" Yes, student Tai Axian is very smart. He understood it with just a little bit. System, you've already used an illusionary sound technique on him. How can he not understand it with just a little bit? So rough, as expected of the host. Rong Su was a little surprised. Understood it with just a little bit. He suspected that his nephew had been seen through. Chapter 2508. Rong Su stood beside Cui Taixin and watched with his own eyes as Cui Taixin answered the questions with a serious expression. Even though those questions were only the basic questions of grade 1, Cui Taixin being able to answer them correctly was enough to surprise him. He couldn't help but look at Tangua, who was standing at the side. He was especially curious about how she had taught Cui Taixin. One had to know that Cui Taixin's academic results had always been his illness. If his uncle didn't help him, perhaps no one would be able to help Cui Taixin stand up. For this reason, he didn't hesitate to spend a lot of money to hire a famous teacher in the country to tutor Cui Taixin. However, there was still no teacher who could improve Cui Taixin's grades. He also didn't understand what was going on with Cui Taixin. He was clearly a smart child, and he wasn't the kind of child who couldn't read or even count. However, he couldn't learn anything about his academic results. When the words were separated, he couldn't come to a conclusion when they were put together. He had also taken Cui Taixin to see a psychiatrist, but he didn't get any good results. Cui Taixin's mental health was very healthy, and there was nothing wrong with his body. Rong Su, I'm very curious. How did you get him to learn? Cui Taixin had answered these questions correctly, and the way he answered them was very ingenious. Tangua, Taixin is very smart. He understood as soon as I taught him. Rong Su didn't believe it, but she didn't seem to have to lie. In broad daylight, she didn't seem to be able to use any special methods. Cui Taixin finished the last question and let out a long breath. He stood up with his notebook. He was much taller than Tangua and just happened to catch a glimpse of her phone interface. When he saw the sentence Taixin is very smart. He understood as soon as I taught him, his old face was a little hot. He didn't know why, but when Tangua taught him these few example questions just now, he really understood them with just a little bit. It was completely different from before. He seemed to understand something when he looked at the example questions, but when he took them away, he didn't know anything. In short, no matter what, this time, he was a little more confident. If every time Tangua taught him, he would understand as soon as he heard it. Perhaps, he could really try again and give himself a chance. If he could, he didn't want to become a good-for-nothing gangster. He also wanted to take back what belonged to him. He was even more unwilling to be suppressed by that illegitimate son even though he was the legitimate young master of the Cui family. He wanted to go back, more than anyone else. However, he was too useless. He would rather die of old age in this small county than face that illegitimate son who was more outstanding than him. He would watch others praise him and say that he was ignorant and incompetent. Fortunately, his cheap father had foresight and so on. Here, check it and see if I did it correctly. Cui Taixin knew that he must have done the right thing. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up. I did it according to the method you taught me. If it's wrong, it's definitely not my fault. It must be your teaching that's wrong. As soon as he said that, Rong Su knocked on his forehead. She's your teacher now. You. Didn't little uncle teach you how to be polite? Cui Taixin touched his forehead in pain and stole a glance at Tang Gua, who was carefully checking his results. Finally, he stood up straight and said, "Okay, little teacher. As long as you can teach me every time, you will be my teacher in the future." Chapter 2509. In this school, if anyone bullies you, you can come to me. I'm not good at other things, but I still have a few people under me who can be useful. No one will dare to bully you. Thinking that in the future, he would be the school bully, the school hunk, and the top student all in one body, Cui Taixin couldn't help but reveal his white teeth. He looked at Tang Gui eagerly. "Little teacher, did I do everything right?" "Very good." "You did everything right," Tang Gua said affirmatively. "Look, I told you that you're very smart. Didn't you learn it immediately?" When Cui Taixin heard this, he really showed a happy smile this time. He looked at Tang Gua with a little more respect. Although this little teacher was younger than him, she was very capable. She could actually teach him how to do math problems and make a rotten wood like him sprout. He felt that she was much more capable than those famous teachers. Anyway, no matter what would happen to him in the future, he would protect this little teacher. Rong Su was also very happy, but he always had a smile on his face. It was impossible to tell when he was happy and when he was unhappy. He patted Cui Taixin's head. "Learn well from your little teacher in the future." "Yes, little uncle." Cui Taixin was standing straight at this moment. He was not as sloppy as he had been before. Rong Su thought of Cui Taixin's various bad habits and reminded him, "You're not allowed to smoke in front of the little teacher. She's a girl and isn't used to this kind of smell." Cui Taixin pondered for a moment. Did this mean that he could secretly smoke in front of the little teacher? That was not right. Why did he feel that this request was not to restrain him, but to prevent him from hurting the little teacher by smoking? Then, he heard Rong Su say, "I've already asked someone to bring the daily necessities for you." He pointed behind him and saw a few people holding quilts and daily necessities. Anyway, they had everything they needed. Then, he looked at Tang Gua and said, "You just transferred here. You probably didn't have time to buy these, so I asked someone to buy them along the way. Now that you're too new, you don't have to refuse." Tang Gua did not intend to refuse. She smiled and agreed. "Thank you, big brother Rong Su." She had noticed earlier that there was a woman among the people he had brought with him. The daily necessities in her hands were brightly colored, and she could tell at a glance that they were for a girl. They must have been prepared for her. Rong Su was a little dizzy from her smile. In fact, he had personally bought those things. Later on, he realized why he had subconsciously bought those things. Even though it was strange, she had already bought it. She might as well ask someone to deliver it to the girls' dormitory for her. Just like that, Tang Gua became Cui Taixin's personal teacher on the first day of school. In order for Cui Taixin to learn more, Rong Su had applied for a dormitory for him. From now on, he would be a boarding student. That day, Tang Gua returned to the dormitory. Nothing special happened. In this dormitory, the students with the best grades in her class were arranged. When she entered the dormitory, everyone was already there. They were all quiet. When they saw her, they greeted her politely. Then, they either sat in front of the desk to read books or leaned against the bed to listen to English words. The learning atmosphere was quite good. Tanguo also took out her books to read. When the girls in the dormitory saw that she looked like a good student, their gazes softened. At the same time, they became more vigilant. Chapter 25:10. Not because of anything else, but because they thought that this might be a very strong competitor. They had to work harder to avoid being overtaken by a transfer student. Cui Taixin was different. He was the boss of the school. Everyone would try their best not to provoke him. Not long after moving into the dormitory, the other male students in the dormitory all called him boss. He was 2 years older than them, so being called boss, those people really didn't lose out. Because of Cui Taixin's reputation, the male students in the dormitory were happy and a little nervous, so they were more pleasing to him. Cui Taixin didn't care. He was used to it. But now, he had to study hard. But he thought that the male students in this dormitory were the more mischievous kind, making a ruckus in the dormitory. Cui Taixin saw that he had to study hard and become a top student in the future. As a top student, the dormitory must not be dirty and noisy. These little brothers making a ruckus would affect his studies. You guys, don't make noise. Although it was a light sentence, it still made the entire dormitory quiet down. Just when they thought that Cui Taixin was going to do something, they heard him say, "The dormitory is so dirty, how do you guys survive? Come down and clean this place." They couldn't ignore the school bully's words. The male students in the dormitory quickly got busy. 2 hours later, the originally dirty and messy dormitory looked brand new. Cui Taixin even used his own money to buy some wallpaper to decorate the dormitory, making it look like a place where a person lives. Although the entire dormitory was very tired, looking at the result of their work, the clean dormitory, they still felt a little happy. Cui Taixin looked at their cowardly appearance and said, "Change out of your dirty clothes, dirty shoes, and dirty socks, wash them all on the same day. If I smell a bad smell in your place, you're not allowed to go back to the dormitory to sleep at night. Also, the dormitory is not allowed to litter. Listen to me, if anyone dares to litter, sweep the floor for the whole semester. The floor has to be mopped and swept every day. In short, you have to make sure that the place I live in is clean and tidy. Not a single bit can be dirty. Do you understand?" "Understood, boss." "Good, as long as you're obedient, I don't have to teach you a lesson. Since you're so obedient, I'll pay for your meals at a big restaurant twice a week." The male students in the dormitory who had been laughing bitterly earlier became happy again. It seemed that this boss wasn't that bad. He wasn't as scary as they had imagined. He just wanted a quiet dormitory and didn't do anything to them. Yes. Also, after 10 o'clock at night, don't make any noise. If you want to play, go play outside. I came here to study hard. You're not allowed to affect my studies and become a top student." Hearing this, everyone in the dormitory was shocked. What? Did they hear wrongly? Cui Taixin had moved to the dormitory to study, but he still wanted to be a top student. Although they didn't believe it, they didn't dare to refute Cui Taixin. Although they couldn't be noisy, they could play with their phones and computers. It was the same. Anyway, with such a big boss protecting him, he could also go to a big restaurant twice a week for a big meal. It was worth it, too worth it. In the future, they would be Cui Taixin's buddies and wouldn't be bullied by others. It was good that the dormitory was clean. Tanguo didn't know that Cui Taixin was reading a book in front of the desk. Chapter 25:11. Everyone in the dormitory looked at Cui Taixin as if he was a monster. It was good to have the heart to study, but staring at the books made him dizzy. He could only focus on the type of books that Tang Guo talked about. This made Cui Taixin feel strange and sad. Sure enough, he was still a piece of rotten wood. He needed a little teacher to teach him. "Boss, are you really going to study seriously?" "Yes, boss. We didn't have a good foundation in middle school. It's really difficult for us to look at high school textbooks directly." Cui Taixin raised his head and frowned. "You're right. I didn't have a good foundation in middle school. Why don't I ask someone to send some middle school textbooks over?" The middle school textbooks were sent the next day. Cui Taixin had lunch and quickly flipped through them, but he still couldn't understand. The class was surprised at his sudden effort to study. But seeing his sad face, a kind-hearted person even asked if he needed help. Cui Taixin didn't refuse his kindness and handed the book to him. "Then please tell me about this question." In the end, he said shyly, "Thank you." The kind-hearted classmate was surprised at Cui Taixin's change. He helped Cui Taixin not out of kindness, but because although Cui Taixin was a little fierce, he was still the school bully. But speaking of which, Cui Taixin never bullied honest classmates like them. There was once when he went home, he was stopped by gangsters outside and asked for a toll. At that time, Cui Taixin happened to pass by with his underlings and beat up those gangsters. He even grabbed their collars and said, "Get lost. Can't you see that he's wearing my school uniform? I'm from Cui Taixin's school. How dare you ask for a toll?" Maybe Cui Taixin didn't remember him, but he always remembered him. Now that Cui Taixin needed help, he definitely wouldn't refuse. However, he explained it to Cui Taixin several times and didn't seem to be impatient. But Cui Taixin still didn't understand. "Forget it. As expected, only the little teacher can help me." Cui Taixin looked at the middle school textbooks and didn't feel discouraged. Not long after, Tang Guo came to Cui Taixin's classroom to look for him. When he saw Tang Guo, Cui Taixin showed a glimmer of hope. He stood up all of a sudden, which shocked the students in the classroom. Then, she saw Cui Taixin holding the book and quickly running out of the classroom. Finally, he looked left and right, then called one of his subordinates to bring him a stool and let Tang Guo sit on it and read. "I thought about it yesterday. I don't think I have a good foundation for junior high school. I asked someone to send me junior high school textbooks, but I don't seem to understand them. Little teacher, why don't you start teaching me from junior high?" Cui Taixin didn't feel that there was anything shameful about this. He had experienced even more shameful things. That was, in every opportunity back then, he had been defeated by that illegitimate son. He had been talked about and despised by others. The mocking gazes from all directions were still fresh in his mind. He didn't mind being treated as a rarity by the class. In the past, he couldn't see any hope. Now that there was hope, he didn't feel awkward at all. He just wanted to grab hold of this life-saving straw. He hoped that he could return to that place with a different attitude. In front of that illegitimate son, he could hold his head high. Okay. Tang Guo didn't refuse. She had originally planned to do so. This time, she added Cui Taixin as a friend and said that she could ask him for help at any time in the future. She would tell him the solution through voice messages. Unknowingly, Tang Guo spent a week in this school. Today was Friday. She was going home and should see Tang Wen. Chapter 25:12. In a week, Cui Taixin had already made up half of his middle school lessons. Under the guidance of Tang Guo's sound skills and Cui Taixin's smart brain, he was able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. In just a week, Cui Taixin had changed a lot. Although he was still that fierce boy, many people were afraid of him. But he was seriously doing questions and reading books every day. They were all reminders derived from what Tanggua had taught him. As long as Tanggua had taught him, he would remember it better than anyone else. Sometimes, when the class was very noisy, Cui Taishin would take the initiative to shout, "Don't make any noise. You're disturbing my study." Many teachers noticed Cui Taishin's change. No matter what, it was a good thing that Cui Taishin was willing to study. At the same time, he helped them manage the discipline in the class. It was quite good. The dormitory manager also realized that after Cui Taishin moved into the dormitory, the dirty and messy dormitory had become the cleanest dormitory. It was cleaner than many female dormitories. It was simply a refreshing stream in the male dormitory. Tanggua packed her bag and walked out of the school gate. She saw Cui Taishin at the door, smiling at her with his white teeth. Beside Cui Taishin was a little boy with a small school bag. Who else could it be but her biological brother, Tang Lin? When Tang Lin saw Tanggua, he ran to her happily. "Sister, I specially came around to go back with you." He glanced at Cui Taishin, who was smiling foolishly and calling Tanggua little teacher. "I bumped into Boss Cui on the way. Little teacher, do you want us to escort you back?" Cui Taishin pointed at his lackeys behind him. "With us escorting you, no one will cause trouble for you." Tanggua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "No, this isn't a dangerous place. I can go back on my own. It's rare for me to have a break. You guys go and have fun." Now, Tanggua is explaining to Cui Taishin through the phone's voice. Sometimes, she even needed to make a call. For this, Cui Taishin directly charged her a few thousand yuan for the phone bill, saying that he would take care of it in the future. Ever since he met more and more people, the hope in Cui Taishin's heart had also increased. He could already imagine the shocked expressions on those people's faces when he appeared in front of them in the future. Just as Tanggua and Tang Lin were about to leave, a car suddenly appeared outside the school. The car door opened and Rong Su stepped out. He looked at the school gate. His gaze first fell on Tanggua, then on Cui Taishin. He strode towards Cui Taishin with his long legs. In fact, he had been looking at the little girl from the corner of his eyes. He didn't know why, but ever since he saw her, he couldn't calm down. Cui Taishin was stunned when he saw Rong Su walking towards him with a smile. "Uncle, I can come back by myself. You don't have to pick me up. I'm almost an adult, and I'm not a little girl. Besides, it's not dark yet. I'm not here to pick you up. I'm here to thank your little teacher. I've been aware of your progress this week." Yes, this week, Rong Su contacted Tanggua almost every day. As for whether he really wanted to ask about Cui Taishin's situation or something else, only he knew. Taishin has changed a lot this week. The smile in Rong Su's peach blossom eyes never disappeared. He looked at Tanggua and said, "Let me treat you to a meal. If it's too late, I can send you back." Cui Taishin was a little dumbfounded as Tanggua and Tang Lin were invited into the car. Rong Su's lips curled up. He turned around and said to him, "Taishin, take a taxi here yourself. There aren't enough seats." Chapter 25:13. Cui Taishin was speechless. Sure enough, his uncle wasn't here to pick him up. Alright, since the little teacher should be in the car, he would just take a taxi. "Let's go, brothers. Today, my uncle is treating. Eat as much as you want. Don't stand on ceremony." Later on, it was indeed Rong Su who sent Tanggua and her brother home. However, she asked Rong Su to stop at the entrance of the village. "My family is a little special. It's better to stay here to prevent any other trouble." A week was enough for Rong-su to figure out everything that Tanggua had experienced. The so-called impermanence of the world was probably referring to her experience. Although she did not have the bloodline of the Yun family, there was nothing wrong with the Yun family's methods. At most, they were a little cold-blooded. And she didn't seem to have any meaning. This was the rarest thing. Not many people could withstand the sudden change from a high and mighty little princess to a commoner's daughter. Okay, then be careful. If there are any problems, you can call me. Rong-su didn't know why his gaze was always attracted to her. However, he didn't dislike it at all. The more he interacted with her, the more attracted he was to her. He didn't avoid anything and let these things grow like wild grass. Tanggua held Tang Lin's hand and returned to the family Tang. At this time, the sky was almost dark. Tang Lin took out the key to open the door. Tanggua then remembered that Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong didn't seem to have given her the key to the house. The two of them walked into the living room and saw the family of three eating. They didn't seem to have any intention of waiting for them. As if noticing them, Tang Liming coughed lightly. Why are you back so late? Tanggua moved away from a little girl at the dining table and said, I was going to do some homework at school, but I accidentally got a little late. Tang Liming nodded and didn't ask if she had eaten. Instead, he turned his gaze to Tang Lin. Are you being naughty on the road again? You come home so late every day. Originally, Tang Lin didn't go to look for Tanggua, so he went home late. Tang Liming had always thought that he was playful, but in fact, he went to pick up trash. However, Tanggua had given him a lot of money before, more than the money he earned from picking up trash. She even told him to study hard. Tang Lin gave up picking up the trash, thinking that listening to his sister was right. Therefore, Cui Taixin was not the only one who changed this week. Tang Lin also changed. Both of them started to study seriously this week. Xiaogua, you haven't eaten yet, right? Sit down and eat. Duan Yuhong asked with a smile. The food on the table was almost finished. When Tanggua looked at the table, Tang Wen seemed to understand something. With a few chopsticks, she picked up the remaining half of the sausage and put it into her bowl. She wolfed it down without even looking at Tanggua. Duan Yuhong didn't invite Tanggua to dinner out of kindness, but there were so many bowls. Tanggua could help to wash the bowls after dinner. She even gave the bowls to Tanggua. Tanggua smiled and shook her head. My brother and I have already eaten at school. Although most of the students would go home every week, there were also some who didn't. On weekends, the school would still cook a small amount of food. Duan Yuhong looked a little disappointed. I see. Tang Wen had already finished eating. She put down the bowl and chopsticks with a thud and went upstairs. Tanggua and Tang Lin followed her upstairs. After all, her room was upstairs. She had even locked the door before she left. So when she reached the door, she realized that it seemed to have been kicked open. She had just opened the door when Tang Wen came over. Hey, why did you lock the room? Also, there are a few things inside that I want to take away. With that said, she tried to push Tanggua away. Tang Lin saw it and pushed Tang Wen away. What are you doing? This is my sister's room. Your things are in your room. Why are you taking them from my sister's room? What do you mean by her things? My mother bought everything here. I can take whatever I want. It has nothing to do with you. Brat, get out of the way. A good dog doesn't block the way. I wonder whose dog is barking. Tang Lin retorted rudely. She wanted to bully his sister. No way. Chapter 25:14. What's going on here? Of course, Duan Yuhong heard the commotion upstairs. She also heard Tang Lin scolding her daughter for barking like a dog. She was furious, but she pretended to be angry in front of Tang Liming. She wouldn't deal with Tang Lin personally. Tang Liming wouldn't say anything about how she treated Yun Yi. He wouldn't hold a grudge against her because Yun Yi was a wild girl. Tang Liming already despised her. But no matter what, Tang Lin was still his son. Even if he despised him verbally, he didn't really intend to abandon his son. So, she first asked what was going on here. Then, she pulled Tang Wen to her side. Xiao Wen, what are you doing here? Why did I hear you scolding Lin just now? Mom, I just went in to take some things. You bought the things inside. Can't I take them for my own use? It's all Tang Lin's fault. He stopped me from going in to take them. Mom bought the things in this house. I'm Mom's daughter. What right does he have to stop me and scold me? Tang Wen looked extremely aggrieved. When she saw Tang Liming coming up, her eyes turned red. Dad, he bullied me again. He even called me a dog. Tang Liming's face darkened. He stroked Tang Wen's head lovingly and strode towards Tang Lin with a gloomy face. Tang Lin shivered subconsciously. He was very familiar with this action. Every time Tang Liming got angry because of Tang Wen, he would come over to grab him and beat him up. Usually, he would grab him by the collar and slap him twice. If he struggled, the other party would grab him by the collar and kick his butt with his knee. Because he had learned to be obedient in the past 2 years, he was silent most of the time. He didn't argue with Tang Wen anymore, so he didn't get beaten up much. But today, he got into an argument with Tang Wen again. Tang Liming would definitely not let him off. Tang Lin clenched his fists in fear. If he was a little bigger, Tang Liming would definitely not be able to beat him. But now, he was only a 10-year-old child. He was no match for an adult man. His biological sister was standing behind him. He couldn't possibly move aside or cry out of fear. His sister looked quite weak. What if his sister got beaten up when he made a ruckus? At this moment, Tang Lin suddenly felt a little sad, a little helpless, and a little lost. Just as Tang Liming was about to grab Tang Lin's collar, a warm hand was placed on Tang Lin's shoulder and gently moved him to another position. When Tang Lin came to his senses, he realized that Tang Gua had her arm around his shoulder. She seemed to have protected him in her arms. A warmth that he had never felt before swept through his heart, making him feel a little overwhelmed. This brat needs to be taught a lesson. Tang Liming looked at Tang Gua and said, Xiao Gua, don't protect him. I'm going to teach him a lesson today. He's so young, he already knows how to bully his little sister. If I don't teach him a lesson, he won't know his place. What will happen when he grows up? Tang Lin's eyes dimmed. He didn't understand why having a biological father was the same as not having one. In fact, he was even more pitiful than not having one. Dad, you haven't found out the truth and whose fault it is. Why do you want to teach Lin a lesson? Tang Gua had a strange look on her face. Dad, don't be angry. Even if you're angry, you have to find out the truth. What if you hit Lin by mistake? Chapter 25:15. Moreover, the current education system doesn't encourage such violent methods. Dad, do you watch the news? I've seen quite a lot. Previously, it was exposed on the internet that parents arbitrarily beat up their underage children and they were all detained. Tang Liming was stunned for a moment. Isn't it right for a father to hit his son? He made a mistake and bullied your little one, so he should be taught a lesson. But Dad, you didn't ask anything and just hit Lin. That's wrong. If it's exposed, you'll be scolded by many netizens and the people around you will point fingers at you. Tangua's lips curved. In some foreign countries, this is even more important. In serious cases, parents who hit their children will be sentenced and their custody rights will be taken away. Tang Liming didn't understand these things. After all, he was just a junior high school graduate and didn't usually pay attention to such situations. In his opinion, it was fine to hit his son when he made a mistake. If he didn't hit him, wouldn't this kid go to heaven? Dad, this time, it's really not Lin's fault. If it's his fault, then whose fault is it? Tang Wen didn't take it lying down. She was used to being domineering. It should be said that in this family, she had long been spoiled and thought that everything here belonged to her. He stopped me and even called me a dog. Dad, he bullies me like this every time. You have to help me teach him a lesson. Tangua didn't indulge this little princess. This is my room. It's impolite for you to barge in without my permission. It's only right for Lin to stop you. I don't care whether this is your room or not. Anyway, this is my mom and dad's. I can take whatever I want. And you have no right to stop me. Tangua didn't continue talking to the arrogant Tang Wen. Instead, she looked at Duan Yuhong. Auntie Duan, is that so? In the future, little Wen can take away everything in my room. Duan Yuhong didn't expect that after Tang Liming failed to teach Tang Lin a lesson, Tang Guo would ask her this question. Originally, she also thought that many of the things in this room were new and good. She had spent a lot of money to decorate them. Unfortunately, the Yun family didn't even look at it. It wasn't that she didn't plan to give the things inside to her daughter. However, she was still a little scared of the Yun family. She was afraid that Tang Guo would call them and tell them about her grievances. She was even more afraid that the Yun family would find out what Yun Yi had been through all these years and cause trouble for her. Moreover, Tang Guo had locked the door, so she didn't think about it for the time being. However, Tang Wen was not satisfied. She knew that Yun Yi had left and Tang Guo had come. Moreover, Tang Guo directly occupied the good things in this room. She was angry when she scolded her for arranging these things for Yun Yi. If her mother hadn't said that she was afraid that the powerful Yun family would cause trouble for them and make their lives difficult, she wouldn't have agreed. Now that Yun Yi had left, she naturally should take back the things inside. Why should she give it to this wild girl? Duan Yuhong also wanted to take advantage of Tang Wen's young age. Tang Guo was already a high school student, so she shouldn't care about these things. However, she didn't expect that Tang Guo would ask her directly. This made her very embarrassed. However, her embarrassment was quickly resolved by Tang Liming. Little one is still young. It's inevitable that she wants the things she likes. Xiao Gua, as an older sister, you should give in to your younger sister. Let her go in and see if there's anything she likes. This child has been spoiled by us. When she grows up, she will be sensible. Chapter 25:16. Tangua sneered in her heart. When she hit her brother, the reason was that she was afraid that he would grow up to be bad. She just spoiled Tang Wen. She was a little overbearing when she was young, but she would grow up to be sensible. This double-standard dog was really something. However, Tangua didn't plan to take the initiative to fall out with them. That wouldn't be fun. She had to anger them to the point of having a heart attack. Dad, have you heard of a saying? Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong looked at each other. They both knew that Tangua grew up in a rich family. When she spoke, it was clear and logical. However, they couldn't refute her. Moreover, they really shouldn't do anything to Tangua now. After all, they were still afraid of the Yun family. What saying? Tang Liming tried his best to make his expression look better. He was so good-tempered because he was afraid of the Yun family. Secondly, he knew that Tang Guo was still in contact with the Yun family. Maybe one day, she could get some benefits back. This girl wasn't as honest as Yun Yi. If they fell out with each other, without more than 10 years of living together, she definitely wouldn't think of him when she got something good. The saying goes, steal a needle when you're young, steal gold when you grow up. Tang Guo didn't care about Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong's expressions. She continued, little sister Wen wants to take something from my room now. Of course, I don't mind. After all, she's my blood-related sister. She's young, so there's nothing wrong with me giving in to her. However, because she's my blood-related sister, I can't indulge her. Now that she wants something in my room, she wants to take it. In the future, if she wants the money in the bank, will she think of a way to secretly take it? When she sees that the ATM can spit out money, will she directly take a hammer and smash the ATM? Looking at Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong's shocked expressions, Tang Guo's lips curled up slightly. Dad, Auntie Duan, I don't want little sister Wen to become like this. That's illegal. She'll have to go to jail. If you don't take care of her now, can you be responsible for her in the future? Although Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong were very angry, they felt that Tang Guo's words were very reasonable. Wasn't it reasonable? Later on, Tang Wen could kidnap and kill people. Wasn't it because she wasn't taught well when she was young? Not only did he break the law, he even killed someone. Tang Wen was also angered. However, she was too young. Even though she was very domineering and unreasonable, she was still angered by Tang Guo's words to the point that she didn't know what to say. She could only glare fiercely at Tang Wen. Tang Guo looked at the three of them and gave them another dose of medicine. She took out her phone and showed a few cases to the couple. She had already found cases of children who did not teach them well when they were young and did bad things when they grew up. They harmed their parents, stole their parents' money, or even killed their parents because their parents did not give them money. Dad, Auntie Duan, look at these real cases. Tang Guo frowned. Looking at these cases and then looking at little Wen, I'm really worried about her future. Unknowingly, Duan Yuhong and Tang Liming were led by the nose by Tang Guo. If the cases that Tang Guo gave them were about children who grew up bad and would hurt others, the two of them would not be so concerned. However, the cases that Tang Guo gave them were all about how these children who grew up bad treated their parents who used to be good to them. One by one, the scary cases made their hearts turn cold. Chapter 25:17. Dad, look at this case. When you was young, he often yelled at his parents and his parents would satisfy whatever he wanted. Later, when he went to university, he wanted a certain brand of computer, but his parents really didn't have the money. That computer cost more than 10,000 yuan, and they really couldn't afford it. They asked him to choose a computer that cost 3,000 to 4,000 yuan, but you refused and even wanted to commit suicide by jumping off a building. The couple was frightened. After discussing it, Yu's father decided to sell his kidney to buy his son the game book that cost more than 10,000 yuan. When Tang Guo was speaking, she noticed that Tang Liming subconsciously covered his kidney and the corners of her lips rose uncontrollably. Auntie Duan, look at Zhang. She's a beautiful girl. She's been doted on by her mother since she was young. Whatever she wanted, her mother would buy it for her. When she grew up, she was infatuated with a man, but this man turned out to be a gambler. Her salary wasn't enough to support this man, so she often asked her mother for money. Later, Zhang's mother spent all her savings and even sold the house. However, she was still not satisfied and forced her mother to give her money. When she didn't get it, she found someone to beat her mother up. It was a kind person who sent her to the hospital. After that, Zhang never returned home again. A few years later, Zhang's mother suddenly received a call saying that her daughter had been arrested. It turned out that she couldn't get money from her mother, so in order to support that man, Zhang decided to become a prostitute. Look, there's a video interview with Zhang below. She didn't repent at all and even blamed her mother for being incapable. She even said that it's easy to earn money in that line of work. Duan Yuhong's eyelids twitched when she saw the bloody cases. Tang Liming's face was also a little pale. They subconsciously looked at Tang Wen and recalled Tang Wen's arrogant and overbearing manner. It seemed that she was right. Whatever she wanted, they would give her. They had never rejected her before. They all doted on Tang Wen, but the cases that Tang Guo gave them made them a little afraid. Actually, Duan Yuhong had heard of these cases occasionally, but she didn't think of it as her own. Now that she combined it with the detailed interview, she felt that Tang Wen had the shadow of these bad children. No, her daughter absolutely could not become the kind of person who was unfilial to her parents and did bad things. Tang Wen was frightened by their gazes. She didn't know what was going on. She only knew that they were treating her like this because Tang Guo showed them her phone. Dad, Mom, don't listen to her nonsense. You are my parents. How can I treat you like that? Although she was only 8 years old, she was very good at coaxing. Duan Yuhong heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. She touched Tang Wen's head and said with a smile, "Of course I believe in little Wen. All right, go back to your room and take a shower. Go to bed early." "No, Mom, I have to get those things back." "You bought them. If you get them back, I'll take a shower." No matter how good he was at coaxing her, she was still a child. He only knew that he had failed to achieve his goal and felt indignant. "Little one, be good. Mommy will buy you a new one in the future." Duan Yuhong could tell that this Tang Guo wasn't the honest and easy to bully Uni. Although she felt the pinch for those things, one day, she would make that wretched girl spit out more. "No, I won't. I want them back now." Chapter 25:18. Tang Wen started to make a fuss. Tang Liming's attitude was also very tough. It was one thing to dote on his daughter, but when the daughter he doted on was not filial to him and even used a knife to cut him, he felt sad just thinking about it. In the end, Tang Liming still loved himself the most. "Go back to your room first. Your sister is right. You can't take things without permission." "Why should I? Those things were bought by my mother in the first place. They're mine." Tang Wen suddenly cried. "I know. You listened to her and thought that I won't be filial to you when I grow up, so you didn't give me those things. I don't care. I want to get the things inside today." Tang Wen made a big fuss and was very fierce to Tang Guo. "This wild girl didn't grow up in our house. Why are you so good to her? You gave her such a good room. There's a desk, a TV, and beautiful dolls in it. They're better than mine and more expensive." The more noisy Tang Guo was, the tougher Duan Yuhong and Tang Liming's attitude became. In the end, it was Duan Yuhong who pulled Tang Wen back. Her heart was in a mess. She felt that if this continued, Tang Wen would really become a terrifying case. "You guys should go to bed early." After this incident, Tang Liming had forgotten about teaching Tang Lin a lesson. Now, his mind was full of those cases, especially those that Tang Guo had told them. He couldn't forget them no matter what. System, of course they can't forget. The host directly used sound skills on them. These cases will appear in their minds from time to time. Tang Lin was still a little confused. Was it over? This was the first time he saw Tang Wen at a disadvantage. That couple actually didn't listen to her. All of this was thanks to his sister. Tang Lin looked at Tang Guo with stars in his eyes, his face full of admiration. "Sister, you're so amazing." Tang Lin whispered, "If it weren't for you, I would have been beaten up badly." Tang Guo patted Tang Lin's head and whispered, "Study hard. Knowledge is power. The more you see, the more you learn. In the future, you can also become so powerful. When the time comes, even if you sell them, they will still happily count the money for you." Tang Guo didn't expect that because of today's incident, Tang Lin's dream would deviate from the original plot. Tang Lin's mind was filled with thoughts of his sister just now. She seemed to have brainwashed Duan Yuhong and Tang Liming single-handedly. They actually stopped doting on Tang Wen. Tang Guo's words flashed through his mind. Even if he sold someone else, he still had to count the money for him. Could it be that one could become so powerful just by learning a lot? His sister wouldn't lie to him, so he should just study hard. On Saturday and Sunday, Tang Guo was helping Tang Lin with his lessons. Tang Lin was smart to begin with. Just like Cui Taixin, he understood immediately. When you enter junior high school, you can apply for accommodation. By then, I will be able to tutor you every day. Tang Lin did not object. In fact, he also hoped to stay here and did not want to return. For the past 2 weekends, Tang Wen came to find Tang Guo every day to make a fuss. She wanted to suppress Tang Guo in everything. Tang Guo didn't make a fuss or scold her. She simply replied with a few words. Every word was reasonable. Her words were like, "Little one, I can't let you do as you wish. Otherwise, if I spoil you, Auntie Duan and Dad will be angry." In short, whatever Tang Wen wanted to snatch from her, Tang Guo would say, "Little one, you can't do this." Chapter 25:19. Tang Wen was quite domineering when she ate at the table. She would eat whatever she liked and would even bring the food in front of her. She would not care about anyone else. Therefore, every time she ate, she would try to snatch the food that Tang Guo wanted to eat. However, Tang Guo was one step ahead of her every time. What she did next made Tang Wen angry out of embarrassment. This was because Tang Guo took the meat for Tang Liming. She also said, "Dad, you've worked hard. Eat more. Little one is still growing. It's okay to eat more. I'm not used to eating too much meat." However, no matter how much you spoil little one, Dad and Auntie Duan are the pillars of this family. You should eat more of these things. Tang Wen couldn't stand it and would make a big fuss. Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong originally thought that Tang Wen did nothing wrong. However, under Tang Guo's deliberate guidance, they discovered many of Tang Wen's problems in the past 2 days. It seemed that she didn't care about her parents at all. She only knew how to ask for things. They remembered that they had left all the good food for her to eat. Tang Wen's mouth was sweet, but she didn't do anything. The two of them couldn't help but think too much. Duan Yuhong saw that something was wrong and secretly taught Tang Wen, at the table, "Can you give your father 2 pieces of food first? Your father likes you so much. If you give him 2 pieces, he will give the rest to you. Don't you understand this?" "I don't want to be as hypocritical as that wild girl." Tang Wen didn't appreciate it at all and even made a big fuss at Duan Yuhong. "I knew it. You all like that wild girl more. I heard everything before. Didn't you all want her to bring some good things over from the Yun family? Because of those things, you don't like me anymore. You're too bad. You've changed. You don't like me at all. In the past, you listened to me and everything was mine. Now, you're all siding with that wild girl." Duan Yuhong had a headache because Tang Wen was becoming more and more disobedient recently. Tang Guo, who had succeeded in sowing discord, went to school under the escort of her brother, Tang Lin. Coincidentally, at the school gate, she met Rong Su, who had personally driven Cui Taixin to the school gate. Cui Taixin waved at Rong Su with a strange expression. "Little uncle, you can go back. I can go in by myself." Rong Su didn't agree. Instead, he parked the car at the side. "The school gave me feedback that you've changed a lot. I plan to go in and take a look. By the way, I'll ask about your class transfer." Cui Taixin really wanted to say, "Can't you just leave this kind of thing to your secretary?" Was there a need for him to come personally? Sure. Cui Taixin couldn't refuse. Although his uncle always had a smile on his face, he was a very strong person. Once he decided on something, he couldn't change it. He found it strange. Why didn't his uncle let him get out of the car? He even parked the car in an alley not far from the school. Later, he suddenly drove out and bumped into his little teacher. Cui Taixin's expression was very strange. He glanced at Rong Su, who was smiling and serious as if he was asking Tang Guo a question in a businesslike manner. He then looked at Tang Guo, who also had a smile on her face and didn't look timid at all in front of his youngest uncle, was actually chatting happily with his youngest uncle. And why did he, Cui Taixin, look a little like their junior? Bah, bah, bah. His youngest uncle wasn't the kind of person who wanted to eat young grass. His youngest uncle must be too concerned about him. That's why he specially drove him here and waited for the little teacher to ask about his learning situation. Chapter 25-20. Cui Taixin successfully transferred classes and was tutored by Tang Guo every day. The students in the school were shocked at first, but later, they became calm. Tang Wen was also temporarily settled by Tang Guo. She returned home once a week without any trouble. Every time, Tang Wen would be so angry that she stomped her feet, but there was nothing she could do about it. Until the final exam, Cui Taixin went from being 5th from the bottom to 300th place. Although this ranking was not high, it was still a big step forward. He was in the worst exam room, so there was basically no possibility of cheating. In addition to the next few tests, Cui Taixin's results were improving. Tang Lin's academic results also improved, but Tang Liming did not care about him and did not even ask him about the exam results. Tang Guo was naturally first. Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong knew that her results were good and were afraid of hurting Tang Wen, so they did not ask. Rong Su had already developed a habit. Every day, he would ask Tang Guo about Cui Taixin's learning progress. Later, it slowly turned into other questions. Almost every Friday, he would pick up Cui Taixin. Every weekend, he would personally send Cui Taixin to school. Cui Taixin did not believe it at first, but later, his eyes were full of disdain when he looked at Rong Su. His uncle actually wanted to eat young grass. Time passed quickly, and in a flash, it was the day of Tang Guo's college entrance examination. Just last semester, Cui Taixin had successfully obtained the title of a top student. He was currently the second student in the grade's final results. Although his score was much lower than Tang Guo's. However, no matter how much he studied, he could not compare to the little teacher, who was a pervert. Tang Guo was going to be admitted to the Academy of Performing Arts. Before this, she was already prepared. As for her younger brother, Tang Lin, he was also the first in his grade. However, unlike what she had imagined, Tang Lin fell in love with giving speeches. He would often be invited by the school to give all kinds of speeches. Tang Guo was lucky enough to listen once and found that her brother had changed. Every speech was full of brainwashing. She also realized that the people listening below actually looked convinced. Looking at Tang Lin's upright and righteous expression, she thought to herself, fortunately, this kid wasn't abducted into a pyramid scheme. Otherwise, who knows how many people he would have harmed. This brainwashing and eloquent eloquence was really a little scary. System, that's right. It's even scarier than sound techniques. On the day that Tang Guo was admitted to a certain film and television academy, Tang Liming and Duan Yuhong were stunned when they heard the news. Looking at the slender young girl standing beside Tang Lin, carrying a backpack and bidding them farewell, their hearts felt a little stifled. 2 years ago, Duan Yuhong made a mistake at work and lost her job. Since then, her life became more and more difficult. In addition, Tang Wen was insensible and she couldn't control Tang Guo. The mother and daughter often quarreled. In order to persuade them, Tang Liming suffered a lot. Knowing that Tang Guo had been admitted to the Film and Television Academy, Tang Wen was furious. She quarreled with Duan Yuhong and ran out to play with her girls. Dad, Auntie Duan, I'll be leaving first. Tang Guo smiled and said goodbye to them. Tang Lin helped Tang Guo pull a suitcase. Naturally, he was going to send his sister off. The corners of his lips curled up. From the corner of his eye, he glanced at the blank looks of the two who were already in their 50s. He suddenly felt that everything was really boring. He retracted his gaze. When he looked at Tang Guo, his eyes lit up for a moment. When he walked out of the house, he said, "Sister, wait for me. I want to go to your school too. You don't study acting. Why do you want to go to my school? You can go to the University of Science and Technology next door." "No, sister, I want to go to your school." Although there was a slight deviation, Tang Guo didn't stop him. Instead, she asked, "Brat, do you have a goal?" "Hey." Tang Lin smiled, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. He only smiled so innocently in front of Tang Guo. "Sister, giving speeches everywhere can't satisfy me anymore." Tang Guo was speechless. "Then what do you want to do?" "Sister, I want to be a diplomat." "How about it? Is the stage big enough?" Tang Guo paused and nodded with a smile. "It's big enough. It suits you quite well." Tang Lin smiled happily and looked at the luxury car not far away. "Sister, look, that old piece of gum is here." Chapter 25-21. Tang Guo was admitted to a certain city's Film and Television Academy, while Cui Taixin was admitted to a certain city's Finance and Economics Academy. The two schools were not far from each other. It was worth mentioning that the Cui family's base camp was in this city. However, they did not know about Cui Taixin's situation. No one would have thought that the stupid young master of the Cui family would be admitted to such a good school with excellent results. Cui Taixin did not take the initiative to mention it, and the Cui family did not take the initiative to investigate his situation. This was because in everyone's impression, he was just an ignorant and incompetent person. No one believed that he could change so much in just 3 years. Cui Taixin's plan was to go back and give his cheap father a surprise when he reported to school. It had been 3 years. It was time to give them a surprise so that they would not forget about him. Now that he was no longer afraid of standing in front of that illegitimate child, and with his little uncle helping him, what was there to be afraid of? Today, Cui Taixin, Tang Lin, and Rong Su sent Tang Guo to her school together. Especially Cui Taixin. His attitude towards Tang Guo was so attentive that it made people wonder if he had ulterior motives. Only those who went to school in the county and were familiar with them knew that Cui Taixin's feelings for Tang Guo were complete admiration and respect. If not for Tang Guo's teachings, he would not have had this day. "Little teacher, my school is not far from yours. If there's anything, just give me a call," Cui Taixin said eagerly. He didn't know if it was because he suddenly caught a glimpse of Rong Su's half-smile, but he quickly changed his words. "Oh right, you can also call my little uncle." He's not busy these days. You can call him. I might still be a little busy because of the new students, busy my ass. If it was really the little teacher looking for him, he would have to escape even if it was an exam. However, his little uncle did not seem too happy. Forget it, forget it. They were all his little uncle. He could not pretend that he did not see those unconcealed thoughts. Rong-su said with a smile in his eyes, Xiaogua, if there's anything, call me. Cui Taixin's heart was sour when he heard such an intimate address. He originally thought that his little uncle valued him, which was why he drove him to school every week. Later on, he gradually understood what it meant to value him. He was obviously just using him as an excuse to see his little teacher. This old bowl was indeed as Tang Lin had said. It was an old piece of sticky candy, thick and sticky. Okay, I won't be polite. Cui Taixin sighed. It seemed that his little teacher had some thoughts about his little uncle. It was really a flower stuck in a sticky candy that could not be pulled off. Tang Lin was already used to his outstanding sister being stuck to that piece of sticky candy. Although he was a little old, his sister liked him, so he couldn't say anything. The only thing he could do was to work harder and stand taller. No matter what happened in the future, he would be able to protect the people most important to him. For the past 3 years, it was his sister had been protecting him. In the future, he should be the one protecting his sister. Although this young man was only 13 or 14 years old, he was already taller than his peers. He did not know if he had learned from Rong-su that he always smiled at people. However, upon closer inspection, he realized that this young man's smile did not reach his eyes. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.